paradise. I saw forever in your eyes. No one could ever put a price on us. No, you are the sweetest paradise. I saw forever in your eyes. No one could ever put a price on us. No.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Low Fuel Motorsport. It's great to be here. My name is Ben Sapsford, also known as Sapitron, and tonight I will be your guide through the ACC Drive Enduro Series. We're here in week 11 and we are here in Monza. We've got a lot to discuss and a lot of great drivers to be checking out on track. But first off, I want to say it is great to have everyone joining us for tonight. Thank you to everyone who's popped up in the chat already, everyone watching, whether you're catching us live or in post. Now, let's have a look at everything that we have to offer. First off, let's take a bit of a rewind. Let's have a look at the standings so far. You can see a few different points. We've got Skidmark Racing, Fisher Racing, Esports, West Competition Racing, LFM, 255 Competition, LIGO setups in your top 5, and that is a lot of different names you can see on the board in terms of standings heading into tonight. Got a lot of different teams, and you've got a lot of different faces that we want to see. Also, Andy, good to see you. I do see you there in chat. Good to see an old friend. Hope all has been going well with PS UK. See lots of different teams reeling themselves off here. Of course, you've got the GT3s and the GT4s, in which case we will be checking in with everyone, and it might even be able to catch a few minutes of the free practice session just before we head into qualifying. It's a big enduro out here tonight, 3 hours. I know it's small on the scale of the series and compared to previous events. Another thing to note is that we do not have Waps here tonight. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it, so he will not be joining us. It's going to be a solo outing here on tonight's occasion, and then we will be watching and learning how these different drivers want to play their races tonight. Team standings looking very spicy though so far, and a lot of different teams who have showed their faces. Looking at some of the previous rounds we've had, it has been quite an exciting, different set of rounds. We've had highlights throughout the entire season. We have had everything from, if I can just get my details here, so we started all the way back in Watkins Glen, and then we've been all over the world. We've been over to Imola, to France, to the UK, South Africa, been Austria, Spain, Belgium, just to name a few. We've got Monza tonight, but of course we've just had coming out of Japan, and then we'll have our final week heading into, of course, none other than the Nordschleife. It's going to be an absolute riot. I'm looking forward so much to that final week. Unfortunately, I won't be the one in the commentary box for that, but I'm going to be eagerly watching from the sidelines and looking forward to the racing that's about to unfold. Let's take a quick look at the results from last time, in particular out in Suzuka. So you had, if we just get the refresh here, we had the Sim RC Endurance team taking first place in the Aston Martin. You had West Competition Racing in second, and then we play in third with many other teams. I say, seeing the Aston Martin be a little bit of an outlier. We've got the Ferraris also making a regular appearance in the top set. But there you go, that's the GT3. And then looking at the GT4s as well, so we quickly bring those up. So GT4s, that was Dynamite as Young Stars, and then 2 DK racing cars, one in the Aston and one in the BMW. So some good positional moves there, and some interesting teams to be seeing move up. This is, of course, going to be playing into the wider championship, and things have wrapped up for a lot of teams. And we're seeing some micro battles that are going to be happening in terms of points today. But we will, of course, be looking forward to seeing everyone give it their all right to the very end and really bring their A game out on course. But what we're going to do, folks, we're going to be jumping in with a free practice for a couple of cars, see who is out there, see just some of the cars that we will be watching eagerly over today. And then we will have a look as they all prep themselves ready for qualifying. Let's go. Let's see what they can do. Let's go trackside. Jumping aboard with one of the GT4s to start off with. It's going to be Ricky Lafleur in the 408 Mercedes. Currently topping your timesheet, it is going to be Yannick Axman, currently piloting the Fisher Racing Esports Porsche. It's the number 108. And I have to say, I am a sucker for black and purple. If it's one colour scheme that I absolutely love, and I am a total sucker for, it is black and purple. Looking very sharp as they make their way. Currently standing with a 147.1 here in practice. And then that is going to be followed further up. It's going to be one of the GT4s. Or I say the Mustang, my mistake. It's going to be the Mustang of Milan Keys. Drive through sim racing in the 110 Mustang. Rocketing their way out of Parabolica. Quickly getting a bit of a chance to dial in their setups. And the thing they're going to be looking out for is making sure they don't wear too much on the left side of the car. Because you think you've got the Lesmos, you've got Curva Grande. It's going to be putting a little bit of additional pressure on those left tyres in specific. Keep those temps under control. Well, the track is at least looking rather fast. It's overcast right now, so temperatures aren't quite there on track surface. Maybe there's a little bit of surface grease that needs to be cleared up before the drivers can really hit their stride. All drivers dipping in and out as the practice session is underway. It's one of the Mercedes AMG GT3 machines, closely followed by one of the Alpines. It's Adam Penzes. In case you're curious about the numbering system, designed in such a way where I do believe, say, the numbers starting with 1 are GT3s, and at least in the pattern that I can tell, the GT4s are designated with a 400 type number. So if you see 400s mixed with 100s, 2 different battles. Like, for example, Tamino with the 407 Camaro right now. As he pushes his way down into the chicane coming out of Curva Grande. Fairly clean, or as clean as one can make it. Trying to get a smooth transition. Keep that car in balance right now. But here we go. Free practice is over. Enough of the dilly-dallying. Because it's time to get our drivers out on for qualifying properly. So just getting everyone back in now. See, last couple of GT4s and GT3s lapping their way around. And then the session getting started in full. So Axman with the fastest time. But then Lucas Busak in the 156s with a .275, fastest in practice. You'll see how that develops over the course of the session, as this is Ricky Lafleur with Colin Racing Team, or Kellett, sorry. CRT pushing into the pit though. No new time in practice. And this is going to be Milan once again in the 110 Mustang. Last driver on track, and then we'll be going course side. Ready to see some hardcore, bona fide racing. There we go. There is session over. There's the call from race control, and it's a mad dash immediately out of that pit lane as everyone is scrambling to get out onto the track. 20 minutes here in qualifying, and then a 3-hour endurance gauntlet. Let's see who is going to be pushing first out. Looks like it's going to be the 102 Mustang of Yannis Reinders. Immediately getting the jump on the competition. Just being a little bit quicker out on the course. Got Paul just behind Kajpour in the Mercedes GT3, and there's a Hentner a little bit further away in the Aston Martin. Bright yellow, hard to miss it. Quick sweep through Variante, then into the Lesmos. We'll see how the drivers warm up for it. Looks like that is going to be Paul actually overtaking the Mustang through the first Lesmo, so they're going to be the first one to track for times, as the GT3 group immediately has a breakaway from the GT4s. We have Busak, who is mixed in a little bit with, but we have many competitors out here on the track tonight. 36 cars. It's going to be quite a congested Monza here. Drivers are going to have to keep their whereabouts. So this is going to be Cash sticking on board with them for the time being, as we do have them rushing now down into Parabolica. Looks like there's been a little bit of a wobble, as further down the order there has been a little bit of contact between cars, just trying to get in the warm-up, trying to get themselves into positions. But here we go. This is going to be very wide out of Parabolica, but Kaj is going to be officially starting their lap now. Making their way down through the start and finish straight. Sweeping as fast as they can, then jumping deep on the brakes. All the way down to first gear, ride it out there. Use a little bit of engine braking to your advantage if you can get away with it. Evergrande holding a decent line, so keeping just shy of the apex, but still keeping it narrow. Track is now in an optimal position, minimal wins as well. No wind to disrupt the drivers. Means that pitch sensitivity of some of their wings consistent out some of these corners. To say through Lesmo 1 and now Lesmo 2 here for Paul. Taking it as wide as one possibly can, but just barely keeping it within the curbs and on the limits. You can see just in the background as well, that was the Aston Martin. Just falling away a little bit. That was Rode. Checking with some of the other cars as things progress, but Paul looking very nice through Ascari. Getting briefly under the bridge, but then now is the setup for Parabolica. This is one of the harder ones. So you sweep down into the apex, or peel out as much speed as you can on the exit. Tiny bit of traffic. That's going to be one of the GT4s here. That is going to be Malik in the 412 Mercedes. Can use maybe a little bit of a draft from them, and it's a 47.1. His initial time coming out from Kajpour. Anyone going to be challenging that? There's going to be a lot of invalidations on the way out. So we have a .605 from Chris Radke. We'll see, this is Megan's coming in with a 47.6, immediately being usurped by Axman and Milan Kiss with a 2 and a 5.62 respectively. Say 47s all coming through. Say Oystein Brenham has just come through with the BMW as well and really putting down some serious pace. We're going to check in with the GT4s as well, as the GT3s are now sweeping their way in. This is going to be Ricky Lafleur, one of the drivers we've jumped in with a few times, as they are now pushing to get some kind of time on the board. So Lucas Busak's just gone in with a 55.9, but can Lafleur beat it? Making their way out of Parabolica. Quick dash, and it's going to be a 57.9, so not quite there. Busak currently holds the pole time for GT4s in their 570S, I believe. There's a brief hiccup from me there, my apologies. We do have Hipolf coming through, bit slow on their time, 52 in the Mustang. So a little bit of a wobble there on their timings, not the best, but still has time to improve. We've still got plenty of time on the clock here, as we're going to see as Poor is now coming through with a seriously impressive delta. See coming out here. Deltas are looking very strong, and it's a 46 from Poor. Great initial setting of the pace, but Rode is going to go one step further. That is Lucas Rode in the 104 Aston. Looking absolutely rapid. Great stuff there from the Aston. We're going to see those times come down only further and further as this session progresses, like with Ricky Baseman in the Aston. So they're on the 49, but could, with their current deltas, bring that down to a 47.3. That could get them in the top 10. A little bit more push on the exit Parabolica, and it's going to get them all the way up into P8, just 3 milliseconds faster than Lasse Strege. Do also want to apologise if I do butcher any names. Feel free to correct me in the live chat if that is an issue. Yannick Schumacher just coming through with a 55.4. The 404 Mercedes being the fastest of the GT4 cars currently so far. Do have some improvements across the board also. This is going to be Vincenzo Rossetti, also in the GT4 Mercedes, now sweeping their way up to the line. Could hop up a couple of places here. It's going to be 27th. So I believe that is net P8 here. Net P9 for the GT4s. Once we take the class divide into consideration. We do have Rode going even faster potentially on their run. Just a 10th up, but a 10th is all that matters when you're dealing with this position of dominance. It's a 46.2 down to a 0.127. Seriously impressive from the Aston, and it's going to be potentially an indication of the fight to come. Yannick Axman also sweeping their way through with a 46.290. Say this initial showing is very, very strong here. Looking like rocket ships. We're going to jump in with GT4. Previously pole position holder, but now relegated to P2. So Yannick Schumacher is currently the one sat here with a 55.4, but you can see in the background here comes Busak. Sweeping through Parabolica in black and lime green. You can see with the GT4s, they don't have that same level of speed, so they can actually save some time by going narrow on this sector of the circuit. And they do get a couple of tenths down, but it's not enough to displace Schumacher from their pole time. Tamino Gottlieb, the Fisher Racing Academy car for the Camaro. That's the 407 in a 56.4, so that is net P4 there for their GT4 efforts. And then Voigt, Benjamin Voigt in the Aston as well. Home Sim Racing Esports firing their way through. Ascari in the 109 Aston. You see it's a trio cohort. That is going to be Brenham and Drexler just behind, both in the M4 GT3. I like that subtle lighting in the grille of Brenham's car. Tricked me for a second to think they had a different grille, like you had the old kidney grills back. But good run there from Voigt. That's going to be all the way up into P5 with the 46.8. Very impressive there. That Aston is going to be jumping out to the pit lane with the head held high. Dominic Cypress in the M4 also coming up to the line. It's going to be jumping up into P7. Next driver to make it into the 46s with a .920. Do also have Rossetti pushing. Check back in a moment with them as we have Marcelo in the 415 Mercedes. We see it's going to be in the background. I think that was Lafleur sweeping off the edge of Ascari. They're going to be jumping out into the pit lane. That's going to be following by Rode and Yudes in the Ginetta, the 409 Ginetta. It's a good move around. So they tuck back in, taking a little bit of a wider line in that GT4 than we saw with the likes of Busak and Schumacher. 57.375, so just behind Vladimir Malik in terms of timings. Seeing more cars now heading back out once again. Brief intermission into the pits at about the 10-minute mark. And now it's time to get them back out there. Check in with some of the other cars as well. For example, this is Axman. See how wide they're taking Parabolica. This is how they're starting up their lap. A nice sweep there. Getting that early entry speed as much as they can extract. Because a good Parabolica can net you easily 2 to 3 tenths of a second. And in this game, in this split, 2 to 3 tenths of a second is the difference between P5 and P12. That is the margin that we are talking. Because you only have 4 tenths that split those positions right now. So Axman not really showing the correct timings. Check in with a couple of others like Schneckenberger, who's in the 105 Mustang. Currently sat with a 151, so has got a lot of work to do if they want to see the improvements that they require. See what these drivers can show us. And who can really bring the heat? Staying on board with the minute. We will check in with the leaders as well, as we could potentially be seeing a new pole position. As Lucas Rode is currently on a run. Will be a driver to watch out for. They have been pushing the bar, pushing the boundary here. And potentially breathing down the neck of a 45. It has to line up absolutely perfectly. Rode was about a tenth up. Check in and see how they're doing in the moment. But here comes Schneckenberger. Any improvement from them? Sadly not. It was an invalidation, so they will not be bringing that time home today. Now, on current pole holder, this is Rode in the Aston. Schumacher in the GT4s continues to hold pole position for the class. Continues to hold that qualifying spot. With Busak and Martignoni getting a 56.007 to take third from Yudes in the Ginetta. However, here comes Rode here. Unfortunately, a couple of tenths of a second down, but it looks like they've taken a wider sweep to put their force and put their effort into this lap. Don't count out the others, however. We do have Axman and Brenham, as well as Paul, who've all had their turns at setting pole positions for GT3. They all have their part to play, and they all have the same mission, same goal in mind. Penultimate round of the series here tonight, so there is certainly going to be a lot riding on this one in particular. See, this is going to be Bonget, meanwhile, sweeping through into 6th place. And a couple of other cars now making their way down here as Megan's getting themselves also into the top 10, getting into 3rd place, just jumping ahead of Brenham. So Brenham all of a sudden has got pressure on themselves. How are they going to be able to counter that with a new podium spot here in the quali? Good clean sweep there through Ascari Rode with the pressure being on. A little bit of bump through the curb there, avoiding the sausages. Brenham could still overtake and get that 3rd spot back, but Axman is also waiting in the wings. So here we go, very good Parabolica, albeit with a bit of a wobble to grip up. For Rode, could they get a 45? This could be the magic run. This could be what takes it. Comes up to the line, 45.942. Monumental lap there from the 104 Aston, and an absolute rocket ship of a GT3, which is so far uncontested in that zone of the leaderboards. Brenham has overtaken Megens to retake the 3rd spot on the GT3 boards, checking in with the GT4s as well. Schumacher continues to be the one to hold, but Busak is pushing all the same. We have largely seen most of the changes in the order happen by this stage, and a lot of drivers are now just focusing on getting consistency down, I think. They will have practiced ahead of time, but this is in race trim. It's almost to help you calm the nerves by going for a couple more qualifying runs, as well as you never know what could happen. So Busak starting up a run here, and we'll check back within them in due course. Here comes Offerman. Looking like a good run there, and a 46.9 certainly is. That's going to be putting them up to P12. Sizable improvement from their previous position. And a rarity to see the B for Bentley. Fine Spur. Although in this case, they're driving the Continental. A few different Mustangs I am noticing. Seems to be a somewhat popular pick, as well as the BMW. Decent mix around the order. A few different cars are now getting back out there for a last chance run. Some have resigned themselves to the pits. Some have decided that there is nothing more to be gained at this point, and they might as well turn their attention and their mental focus to the race. I'm very much excited to see what these races will do. I, for one, am looking forward to seeing how the drivers will handle their strategy in particular. Because Monza, of course, it is a very high speed, it is a very power-oriented track. And so that means that you can leapfrog and do quite a lot of work with some intelligent pit stop timing. So we've just sat on board with Bonge for the time being. We do have Lucas Rode, who is on another run, and we'll check in with them later on. Drivers opting to stay in the pits. If you're in the pits by this point, you are not going to be making it round, and you have, safe to say, completed your final run. Let's check in with some others. We're going to check in with Ricky Lafleur, the CRT car in the number 408 Mercedes. Making their way now through Variante and into the Lesmos as we speak. going to be a quick sweep. 45 seconds remain in this qualifying session. Quite a wide arc there, but still within track limits. Even if you do touch the gravel a little bit, have at least some of your wheels on the track surface still. Pushing forward now. Getting their time quickly down. Up to line 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And qualifying is officially done, folks. So anyone who's in the pits at this point is considered to be finished. Though not to be outdone here is Lafleur coming through. Is there going to be any improvements on the board for them? Does not look like it. Back into the pits they go. Meanwhile, you have Paul Bongate with a little bit of an improvement and a couple of the GT4s coming through as well. That's going to be a nice jump up into P6. There's the 117 of Matteo Di Buono in the Aston. Last chance. Getting to the 46s. Can they do it? Yes, they can. Up into P12. Nice little position bump, as you see. Here's Schneckenberger going into the pits. Here comes the GT4s, though. A couple of drivers, a lot of sweeps. There is Berblik coming up to line, just up ahead. Comes up behind Martignoni. Martignoni themselves just 15 milliseconds shy of an improved time. Is the Ginetta of Hughes, who is going into the pits. Following that, you have a last moment run. Dominic Cyprus, 9th in GT3. 46.7. Chance to make it up. But unfortunately, not this time. Ashpour could take a couple of last minute positions as they are 2/10 up. All comes down to Parabolica. How is Parabolica going to treat him? Fairly well. Is it going to be enough for podium? Yes, it is going to be 0.332. Third place in qualifying here. Well, not technically a podium. It is enough to put some pressure down. And then Yolan Banyeres is going to be the last on the course and in the R8. No less. In the R8 GT4. Up to the line, and there you go. That is session done, ladies and gentlemen. And what a session it has been. So, let's have a quick roundup. Rode in first, Yannick Axman in second, and Kaj Pour in third for GT3. Following that, you have in the GT4s, you have Lucas Busak, who is going to be actually in second, as I misread that, as Yannick Schumacher in first, with Nicola Martignoni in the third position spot. Good running from them all here. Now it's time to get back on with it and see what our drivers can really do. So, let's take it from the start. We're going to be seeing our drivers swap around, get into their formations for the 3-hour enduro, but let's take the grid piece by piece. Let's take it from the top. As you have in first, you have none other than the Simorisi Endurance Team with Zentner and Lucas Rode. Following that, you have Yannick Axman piloting for the Fisher Racing Esports Team, and Eric Heim will be the second driver. Cash Paws in the number 101 Mercedes GT3 and is going to be soloing Skidmark Racing on this occasion. That you have Oystein Brenham, who's also soloing, this time for West Competition Racing in the 103 BMW. Orin Megans is your fifth driver for Infelix Racing alongside Stefan Behrens in the Ferrari. And then completing your third row, it's going to be the 115 Calit Racing Team with Lagenberg and Bonge completing in the Mustang. Dressler is in seventh with the 111, also Skidmark Racing, but the BMW alongside Sebastian Broker. And then Benjamin Voigt with Pascal Giraud in the Homer Sim Racing Esports 109 Aston. It's going to be Dominic Cyprus coming through, along with Dennis Adler in the Fisher Racing 106 BMW, with Milan Kiss completing row 5 in the Mustang, the number 110 of Drive Through Sim Racing, and soloing this 3-hour enduro. Lasse Streger is going to be there with Jeremy Budauda in the Madcap Racing 114 Mercedes. Then you have Matteo Di Buono in the 117 DC Racing car. Through. Have MCM Racing, the 116 Bentley with Offerman and Wagner. And Anatoly Kroitin soloing for Team 32 in the 118 McLaren. Chris Radke is going to be the 119 Adrenaline Racing Team car. Ferrari highlighted by him and him alone. And row 8 is completed by Simmerais Racing Team, the 113 Mercedes with Adam Penzes and Isvan Antal. Ricky Baseman soloing in the 120 Aston with the team of the same name, closely followed by Benny Benson, the Yeet Esports 121 Aston Martin. Lucas Schneckenberger is in your 19th spot with Low Fuel Motorsport, the 105, and then Andrei Hipolf also in the LFM Esports car, this time a 107 Mustang. The duo for LFM making their appearance. Finally, rounding out your GT3 grid, LFM is going to be the 102 Mustang with Yanis Reinders. Then you get onto the GT4s. Starting with Firefly E-Racing, Yannick Schumacher, great qualifying, and first in GT4s, closely followed by Lucas Busak and Marvin Moritz with the DMC MS Motorsports. Nicola Martignoni with MR Reparto coaching is in the 4110 Mercedes with Marcus Bebic in the Low Fuel Motorsport 401 soloing in the Mercedes GT4. Ricky Lafleur is going to be your next target with the 408 Mercedes Calit Racing Team, followed by Matthew Yodes in the Ginetta for Apex Predators and soloing in the 409. Alexander Krok in the Mercedes as well. E-Bosch 405. Matisse Croce and Tamino Gottlieb, who did the qualifying in the 407 at Camaro. So great variety we're seeing there. A lot of Mercedes to be added to with Racer Daycare, the 412, that's Vladdy Malik and Harry Ferran. Then Dieter Bletten with the LFM Content Creator Team in the 403 McLaren. And Yolan Vanieres in the Naga Racing YouTube Community 411. Rounding things off then, we have the RM Corsa Mercedes 416. And then coming up, last couple of spots, we have Marcelo Colo and Tiago Cruz, Portuguese Racing Club Team, the 415 Mercedes. That's Aki Raunio in the 413 Akibwa Racing Alpine. And finally, completing your grid, it's Eric Gorgon with Sim Racing Canal. Eric Gorgon and Felix Kamrad running this one together. But there you go. That is it, folks. That is your grid, and that is what we have to look forward to tonight. Of course, live chat, let us know who you want to see on top, who you're keeping your eyes on, who you're rooting for. Let us all know. Give us everything. Give us your story in the live chat, of course. But I'm very excited to see what these racers do. With a 48-minute stint timer, 48 minutes exceeded, you will get a penalty. Just making their way out. Formation officially underway. It's a little bit windier than we saw in qualifying. Say 5:39 PM local time. And a 3-hour race set in 22 degrees track temperatures with 19 degrees ambient. So hopefully cooling and tyre temps aren't too much of a concern. However, what will be a concern is getting them up to that operating temp. Make our way down under the bridge of the old oval. Slowly getting ourselves ready. See everyone in prime position to get themselves racing. Hopefully they have set themselves up to not be too aggressive on the tyres also. Keeping a stable platform, limiting the amount of scrub. Going to be very important here. Don't want graining on your tyres, that will come back to bite you severely. ACC Drive Endurance Series coming to a close soon. The penultimate round here. But before we head to the Nordschleife, we've got to make one more stop in the heart of Italy as everyone gets into their positions, double file for formation. Once everyone is in place for the lineup into Parabolica, the question is, who's going to leave their mark here? Who is going to be the driver comes out on top? Everyone is lining up, getting into form. Soon as race control gives the go-ahead, got a very exciting race ahead. But it's time to go 3 stop minimum. The track is hot here for round 11, week 11 of LFM season 17, and here we go. Quick sweep, and immediately there's going to be a push from Yannick Axman. A little bit more exit speed and a couple of overtakes you can see in the back line. You can see as 2-3 wides, this is going to be the Aston and the BMW either side of the Ferrari, making a bit of a push forward. There is Axman trying to attack on Rode there, but it's just not quite happening. Immediate chaos already kicking off. That's the 111 car being dealt or dealing a bit of a heavy hand to some of the others. As you can see further down the grid, as well as Bonge tailing off from one of the Bentleys just behind, single double file, triple almost at points, heading into anti-outer. Oh, just a little bit of outbraking each other. We'll leave the space at the apex, just barely making it through. See GT4s having much of the same chaos. We see Yannick Schumacher actually leave the track and stay out ahead. A very chaotic race, and we haven't even got a minute in. We're seeing a lot of chopping and changing in both the GT3 and the GT4 fields respectively. Racing their way down into Ascari. The two classes are going to split themselves up, and in fact already have done so. GT3 is already getting quite a bit of distance on the GT4s, as we can see from Benny Benson in the 1-2-1. But now looking to the other fields, we also see a few chops and changes for positions. One of the LFM cars has made their way up. Ricky Lafleur is going to be pushing those GT4 cars, as we do see, I think that's Croscher going off into the gravel. There's going to be a lot of incidents and a lot of issues coming up. But up ahead, there's Brenham and Poor drag racing each other into the first corner. Croscher did end up going off at Ascari. Oh, but look at that, that's Axman taking a little bit of a tip on the rear axle. And having quite the wobble, it seems. Chaotic first runs here. There's contact left, right and centre. Nobody's giving a chance to breathe. See, that is going to be alongside De Bueno, and a bit of gravel being kicked up ahead. Voigt has actually got the fastest time of the session. You can see one of the Ferraris peeking the nose out. That is going to be Radke here. See, there is Meggins as well, looking for a chance to get by, and just not being afforded such a luxury. So he's getting chased down. See, Busak actually is leading from Yannick Schumacher here, as the two of them did trade, just coming out of Lesmo 2. A little bit more exit speed from the 570S. See, Yannick is trying their best to get it back round. So far not happening, however. We have got reports, major accident that happened. So let's take a bit of a replay and see exactly what's happened. This is going to be from the second TV cam. So this is Flatty Malik from aboard with right now. So goes to the inside through Ascari. And oh no, just a bit too close on the door, and they barely avoiding disaster here. And Schumacher being right on the tail. Refuses to yield even an inch. As we head over, boom, big send coming in. That is going to be Martignoni. I think just outbrake themselves, and it's chaos has erupted in the chicane. Absolutely erupted here. Let's take a quick look at that once more. So we're going to take a look from the perspective of Utes as they have gone side by side with another car. Was bearing witness to the action and chaos up ahead. Looks like they got their own pocketed incident and a bit of ping pong between two cars, and unfortunately that is going to leave them in the lurch. GT4's continuing to trade positions. That's going to be Aki dropping behind Viñeros as they themselves lost a lot of time. You see Hunt on the front. This is going to be Manuel Wagner going alongside the Mustang and now the BMW. That's Jan Dreschler just up ahead of them. Rode is setting the fastest lap and actually making quite a break for it in the 46s. Trying to get that early mission. You can see very defensive driving. Bonga is on the ropes. Bonga's not going to be giving up just yet. Remains on the inside. Goes for the move into the first corner alongside the Bentley. Contact made. Bentley has to go over the sausage curbs and rejoins the track. Actually ahead of Dreschler. So an advantage he gained there. And I do see a bit of yield from the Bentley to compensate for it. No artificial advantage being gained there. Bonga is going to continue their assault, however. Schneckenberger is breathing down their neck. No chance of getting an easy ride here at Monza. Only 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes in fact. But we are still seeing drivers really push and give it their absolute best. Try and get a breakaway from the rest of the field. Try and get some breathing room for later in the session. See, just coming through. There's the push coming from these two. Schneckenberger alongside right now. The two of them aren't going to yield. Schneckenberger's in fact going to keep it committed all the way through Ascari. Very aggressive line from Bonga to compensate and just barely getting ahead coming out of the exit, but now setting up for Parabolica. Mike Schneckenberger go for an attack once again. Here they are stood currently on the back of the Cadet car. Tucking right in, sweeps to the right side, jumping on the brakes just that little bit later. Take command of the apex of the corner. And you can see that is Bonga lift firmly in the dust. Good sweep there. No major advantage, however, the slipstream will potentially have them back. It's not going to be quite the home run that they think it is, maybe. He's eyeing it up. Still sneaking to the inside, but the end decides against it. I think wise call there from the other Mustang. Well, a bit further down, we do have the latter stage of the GT3s, but the GT4s are also trading the lead. Busak's just lost it coming into Parabolica, but he's not done yet. Schumacher is going to be onto the outside, but Busak with a very good exit. This is going to be their big push here to try and get position. Lost a bit of speed on the start-finish straight, having to tuck back in onto the slipstream. See, no attack being made, unfortunately, but Schumacher with a very narrow line into Parabolica did manage to catch and get them. Things have progressed quite significantly in that department. Wagner still on the back of Dreschler here. Has managed to lose against Schneckenberger throughout all this. Still cannot quite catch that BMW. It's not quite happening for them yet. Patience is a virtue here. And right now for Wagner, they've just got to bide their time. De Bueno, though, and Yanis Reinders, they are trading back and forth. 102 and 117. Radke and Creighton are not too far behind. Heading into the first corner. Reinders is taking command. Bueno, a couple of tenths behind, but a good exit here, and push into Curva Grande could see them taking the apex through Variante Alto. Sometimes I think it's easy to underestimate just the speed of these machines. The actual corner speeds, from some of these cameras, they may look a little pedestrian, but they really are pushing. If we go into the onboards, someone like Yannick, even just in the GT4s, you can see how hard they are pushing the car. As well as that engine noise. How raw these cars sound. Jump up with one of the Astons as they are being hunted down. It's Chris Radke in the 119 Ferrari, hot on their tail. Managed to get a bit of a breathing room through Ascari, but we'll have to wait to find out how long that truly lasts. Good Parabolica could claw all of that back into the first. See, very narrow line for the Ferrari there, just trying to close that gap. Meanwhile, we jump aboard with the Porsche. Very different sound, but a very different approach. Yannick Axman tries to sneak it in on the side of Voigt in the 109 Aston. He really is committing all the way through the first chicane. Curva Grande, they have the inside line. Good move there. But Voigt's not done yet. They're going to tuck to the other side. That's going to be the Porsche closing the door, however. Variante Alto now. A clean move. Do also see a bit of a wobble. It looks like Jan Dreschler has had an issue to where they are now behind both Wagner and Schneckenberger. The Reinders is going to be under a bit of pressure as Paul in the 115 Mustang is really giving them some heat. Bit of contact happening. It's going to be a hefty squabble all the way through this chicane here. Bonga leads Buono in third of this little battle. All big outside extend, and oh, that is a major contact. That has resulted in disaster around the field. There's having to be avoiding action around the course as Buono and Bonga completely in anarchy. Absolute anarchy there. We'll just have to take a bit of a moment here. So let's take it up with the Helicam and try and see exactly what happens. Obviously, we had the incident that we managed to catch on camera, but see, coming into that as well, you see the smoke plumes from the two. Bonga literally across the course, having to slow right down to avoid it. Real dicey there. Really dicey indeed. See a battle of the Mercs now. Meanwhile, it's gonna be Strege and Benses. 114 and 113 side by side through Curva Grande. Strege is going to be the one to come out on top for the time being. And as well as that, Voigt has lost a position to Schneckenberger. Is actually making some serious headway. That smaller squabbles in and out of the course. A seriously big moment, but we are seeing drivers who are already heading into the pits. So that's going to be Radke, Bonga, and Buono. They're all suffering from wounds to their car. all have a little bit of an issue. Fortunately, that will play havoc with their later race, and it wouldn't be surprised if we see them towards the back of the field. Get back at the GT4s for a quick moment. Alexander Krok in the 405 Merc. This is a certainly high pressure situation. Just trying to get any opportunity they can to push up. Beblik in the same boat on the back of Lucas Busak as we speak. Coming up into Ascari. This is also where we're going to start seeing some of the GT3 traffic collide. Not physically, hopefully not physically, but start to share the same track space as the GT4s. So a new challenge emerges for our respective leaders. As Rode, as you can see here, is having to now navigate around the slower cars, and being in the faster class, it's their responsibility to get by safely. Rode with 4 seconds to Brenham. I don't think he needs to worry about that too much. Does have the time to be able to get their moves done in a safe manner. Did have Hughes briefly coming off of the track, and is now trying to make up for a bit of time. They're currently sat net P9 in the GT4s, but found their own bubble of the track. Brooke is technically fighting for a P4, or fighting to stay in the top 5, with Beblik trying to get P2. Just checking up and down the field at this point. We can see Voigt is under a bit of pressure. There's Dreschler right there as we head into the first chicane. Breathing down their neck, so to speak. Voigt is on the hunt right now, and we'll be seeing how they perform in due course. Looking like a hefty responsibility for them. The big problem right now is that we have drivers who are trying to make their strategies settle. We do have drivers who are trying to just find a pocket of the racetrack. But in, for example, Voigt's case, they've dropped down a couple of positions and now they have a rock in a hard place. They're trying to push up to catch up to Wagner and get some positions back. However, they've also got Dreschler breathing down their neck and refusing to give them an easy time. So thank you for everyone joining us from the German channel. Hopefully everything's all right. Not sure too much of what's happened. Oh, we have Milan Kiss off the circuit. Let's see exactly what happened there. What happened to the 110 car? Let's see here. This is Milan getting around the Alpine. It's going to be the number 413 of Aki Ronio. So he's trying to overtake another GT4 traffic. Heading down the inside. Goes a bit too far to the outside there. And just there you go. Contact made. And sweeping themselves out into the position here. Unfortunate for them. But not to be outdone. Here comes Beblik. Now really trying to close down on the back of Busak here. Challenges being certainly made. And then even in the GT3s as well, towards the back end, this is a technically fight for last, but it's still a fight nonetheless. Penzes and Streger continue to challenge each other and go side by side. So the two Mercs have really been keeping each other honest throughout this race distance thus far. Coming up to 20 minutes in, and so far things are looking good for a fair few cars. Rode currently stands 5 seconds almost ahead of Brenham and themselves 2 seconds ahead of Poor. So the front of the field has started to space itself out and find a little bit of their own room. But there's Serie coming actually off the course. We'll see what that looks like in the replay here. See exactly what's going on. So the two of them drag racing each other into Curva Grande, into Variante Alto. Squeeze to the outside as much as one can, and there you go. There's just contact made between the two. Having to take to the escape road. Serie is going to keep their battle and keep things pressed. Their apologies for a slight lag in the transition on the scenes, by the way, folks. Automations were set up, however, the automations have decided not to work for this round. Can only apologise for that one. So this is all being done manually and by hand. Can't quite match up to Chris. See, Milan is on the recovery drive now. They've had that initial issue. They've had a bit of damage from hitting that front barrier. Certainly be struggling a bit on the turn-in, but that's not going to stop them. In fact, that reduced aero is actually, I'd hazard a guess, maybe benefiting them a little bit down the back or the front straight. Maybe see them pushing forward, trying to get some overtakes and then hold the others back where they don't have the corner grip. Sees Rangers and Cyprus both heading round traffic, trying their best to get through the course without much in the way of issue. That's really what this is about. In an enduro, your goals are fundamentally different. So what it matters about is keeping things clean and keeping your race going. That's the bit that is most important. Cannot afford to lose the time, because losing time doesn't just mean the race, it means for your teammates having to maybe pick up the pieces too. See, interesting interaction here. Back on with Beblik. This is them trying to keep onto the back of Lucas, but at the same time GT3s are flashing, trying to get by. There's not much he can do. Not to mention Busak's going to get a little bit of a tow, thanks to the GT3 that just peeled away ahead of them. So see Cyprus catching up to Rangers in the top 10 here, trying to get into the single digits. Rangers not going to make it easy for him, however, and coming up to a bit of GT4 traffic. This could get dicey. Neatly handled, but that's the 403. That is a Balletin getting in the way of his challenge. And Cyprus is now a second away, as opposed to a few tenths. Ricky Baseman also looking at a chance. But they'll have the same fate, as that's going to be the Camaro. Oh, big hop over the curbs, though. Camaro there. That's going to be a bit of a time loss, to say the least. It's Croatia currently driving. Hopefully everything is alright with the German stream. See whether we can get that back up for you. Let you know what's happening either way. So fight for the GT4s starting to heat up. Beblik and Busak continuing their struggle, but also we might see a repeat with the GT3s disrupting what's otherwise a strong challenge. Good apex run, a little bit more speed coming from Beblik here. Really closing in now on the back of that McLaren. Will he be able to link it up? Could this be the trade for P2? 5 seconds away, Schumacher is leading GT4. So really, this third/second place fight is the one that is going to hold all the marbles. Is he just going to be one of the GT3s past? But Busak defends. Good line. A little bit of a wobble on the rear axle. Beblik is relegated back down. Good attacking And then in the same breath, we hand it off the baton to GT3. Dressler is currently hunting. I'll be a little bit concerned at this point for the GT3 drivers who are still in the thick of battle, because look at the front. Rode is 7.5 seconds away from Brenham. And that's the power of just having a clean track with no fights, because you can effectively turn into a hot lapping session with traffic. You don't have to worry about also defending positions, and that's the position that they want to be in. Beblik and Busak are trading positions back and forth, and it looks like Busak might actually have this time. They got a little bit of an attack into the Lesmo 1. But now on the defense, Busak can't really get the move round. It's a brief yellow there for the 404 car. Schumacher actually dropping a bit of time. See, they're coming through Parabolica here and have dropped a fair amount. But eyes aren't them on right now. Eyes are on the P2 battle, which is very quickly turned in a different direction. I was expecting these two to spar back and forth, but we've seen a fairly static battle. This is the first major move that we've had in a little bit. The GT4s mostly spacing themselves outside of that. Rossetti could be challenging. Cross that bridge when we come to it, as that will be a challenge for P10 in the GT4s. Hopefully we also see the podiums get closer together, as Kaj is within 1.5 seconds. GT3 traffic continues to play the motorway game. They're making their way around the slower traffic. Taking a quick moment to observe around the field, folks. Do see the traffic continue. So Baseman and Keese heading into Ascari, and I think Keese's damage is starting to catch up with him. See, that front bumper is looking mangled. You take a look from Baseman's diffuser. It has certainly seen better days, and unfortunately we're not going to see him catch up and get positions anytime soon. See what the racers are capable of, as we now head up soon to the stint time. Remember, 48 minutes on a stint does give you a little bit of flexibility. You technically can flex up to 10 minutes. Oh, something has happened though. Beblik has dropped down in a major way. Let's see exactly what happened there. So this is Beblik on board with the Helicam. So they have just dropped themselves off and seemingly struggling. Whoa! Vusak barely avoiding major loss of control there. As a major loss of control. Quite the wobble that is going to be undoing pretty much all of his progress. Currently been demoted now to P5, as P2 is going to be taken by Busak and is uncontested unless Martignoni closes the gap and closes the doors eventually. Dressler and Reinders continuing to challenge each other and fight. Ascari now eagerly awaiting what the drivers show us once the stint. See, Streget is looking at continuing their fight with Penzis. See, these two they have been an inseparable matchup. These two refuse to yield to the other, and this is the racing that we want to see. Just pure resilience, pure determination between them. Nobody willing to yield to the other, having a brilliant back and forth the entire stint duration thus past. Great back and forth. Serie currently holds the lead, but I doubt that's going to be the way for long. Croatia is trying to get some positions of their own as well. We do see a bit of trading around. Here comes through. There is Vladi Malik, Rossetti, and Laugenberg is on the chase back up. They've taken their first stop in the CRT Mustang. Laugenberg has just swapped out from Paul. And they're going to be pushing for this next set. This is what we were saying, folks. There's a bit of flexibility. And the stints are going to have some variance. But it allows you to customize and see who is going to go long, who is going to go short, and maximize your fastest driver's times, as well as giving you a bit of room to play with should things go wrong. We see a bit of clashing. This is Bleton and Croatia making contact as they come out of Lesmo 2 and actually having a bit of a sparring match, it looks like. As they go under the bridge, that's going to be the McLaren taking point, but the Camaro is coming out of the chicane with a bit more speed, immediately tucks to the inside. That's going to be Bleton with cover off, remaining a bit narrow to try and prevent any kind of apex shenanigans through Parabolica. It's a wits game. It's a mind game between the two. See a bit of a narrow entrance, slightly wider exit. Croatia really running it close. Hot to the back of the 570S GT4 car, giving it as much gusto as they can muster. Even peaking potentially on an overtake through the first chicane, but deciding against it in the end. Opting to come out and try for a bit more substantial of an attack. So you see Bleton is just trying to position their car so that Camaro has nowhere to go. You've got one of the GT3s coming through, flashing the lights. This could block a move that Croatia has in mind, as that is going to be Laugenberg going alongside. The chicane is for the taking. Croatia is going to use that to full advantage though. Has the attack through the apex, going to remain side by side. However, Bleton has the apex through the two Lesmos. They will be able to command the corner, and they do just that. Going through right to the outside, bit of a squeeze there from the McLaren. Camaro holds firm. Lesmo 2 on the outside, bit more speed on the exit and actually managing to sweep around the outside. Great move there from the Camaro to take it here. Heading into Ascari will be able to confirm. But things are looking very interesting. We're also seeing the pit stop start to come out. Radke now coming out for the 119 car. So that will be their time to shine once again in the GT3. Remember, Solo in this instance, they are one of the drivers who are Iron Manning this Enduro. At least that's the term that I'm assigned to it. Not sure if that is particularly a term, but it's one that I like, one that I enjoy. Looks like we do have the German stream back up again from what I can see as well, folks. Or at least from if Twitch is actually being responsive. So good to have that back here also. Lagenberg continuing to get positions back up on the GT3 field. See the challenges continue to rage on. See a bit of a challenge between these two, and as Voigt also closes in on a gap. Rossetti and Malik currently fighting for, I believe that is P12 or P11 here in the GT4s. So he peeks to the left, trying to get it for Variante Alto, but has to tuck back behind. Beblik, meanwhile, getting overtaken by the GT3. Laugenberg is on that hunt. The Kiss is into the pits, finally, after taking that slightly wounded car all the way till the end of the stint. Now it's time to get a bit of flexibility going, and time to see who is going to be yielding last. Running it up to that line, the 48-minute point. Remember, if it gets to 2 minute 12 on the clock, that means anyone who has not pitted by that stage will be subject to penalty. We do have a bit of a friendly rivalry here. Rossetti and Malik both being each other's best rival and worst enemy at the same time. GT3 traffic pushing around and through. There's Rode just sweeping past. So have, say, driver swaps potentially coming in. Same line is coming out now. Remember, another Ironman driver in this Enduro, so they will not be having any driver swaps to speak of. Voigt's on the back of Dreschler. This could be something special. Coming up to the chicane. Really close to the back. Opts not to go for the attack. Interestingly enough, no attacks being made by the Aston, not just yet anyway. Meanwhile, we jump over, we see Schneckenberger is on the hunt, on the chase. They can see Kajpour is in their sights. Through Variante Alta and into the Lesmos now. It's Mercedes v Mustang. And just trying to close that gap. If they can get a good run into Ascari, even if that's not the Mustang's forte, that will serve them well heading into Parabolica. Potentially a move into turn one. Radke and Rossetti. Two cars that will keep an eye on. Radke, having gone into the pits, is now trying to deal with some GT4 traffic. But let's have a look at Rossetti. As you can see, there's one of the GT3s coming through. Flatty Malik continues forwards. See a little bit of contact coming up from a couple of other cars. See Crusher. One that has had a bit of a squabble with a couple of other cars. Ooh, bit of a slide. They're coming through the chicane. In fact, I believe that is Bletten who is chasing them down, trying to close that gap. They're certainly going to have a tough work ahead of them. It's going to be a long road ahead. Schneckenberger is currently in the same boat, albeit a second closer. 0.6 to go. Down into 0.3. Much nicer chicane than their primary rival. See, Kaj is feeling that pressure now, I think. Hipov is also going to be trying to make up time, but has, I think, gone off track slightly. Hence the warning. Just hear from Paul how much they're extending to the point we're getting a little bit on the grass and hear that bumpiness. So giving the car a thorough shakedown, but here we are, sweeping their way through GT4 traffic, barely avoiding the Ginetta. Barely avoiding right there. That was huge in the 409. So Croak and Martignoni as well coming up to the first chicane. Sizing each other up. Croak briefly peeking to the right. No attacks being made. But the strong will is showing forth. Penzis and Streger continue. They're certainly dueling each other right to the edge there. Pushing all the way down is Parabolica now. That's going to be once again a side-by-side affair. This is going to be Streger down the inside. Penzis, do they have much in the way of a response? Doesn't quite look like it yet. There's also going to be one of the Astons, I think a lap down. It's going to be riding the coattails of this little squabble. So Di Buono a lap behind. And certainly struggling to play catch-up. Remember, they pitted in earlier due to damage. So they've not got much in the way of prospects to catch up to these guys, but they will still be soldiering on regardless. The chops and changes as the GT4s get overtaken by the GT3s. Radke is continuing their surge back up to the rest of the order. Just got the last two, Busak and Schumacher, to overtake, and then they'll have reconnected. So Di Buono just making their way around the Alpine now in the background. So Fleur. Actually doing rather well, all things considered. They're currently sat in P6. But have got a lot of time that they need to make up. Well, there is Busak being overtaken by Radke now. And this is GT3 just trying their best to make up for some of the time loss. They got Rode up ahead, who is 2 laps ahead. Quite a margin. We are final time coming up. So, a couple more laps on the field, and then we're going to expect to see everyone pitting in all at once at this rate. A couple of drivers going for some earlier stints. So 48 minutes gives you effectively a 3-minute overlap time. But that's not much. It's only when it stacks up towards the end as it really gives you some strategy variance. Right to the back of Dreschler. Is he really putting the hammer down? It's that Aston has been hunting them down for about 3 to 4 laps now and refusing to yield at any point. So Schneckenberger closing in pretty hot on Kajpour, who we will check on with momentarily. Voigt is the car to watch, however. Rue Ascari, very aggressive run there. Running right up to the curbs, right to the back bumper. Here's the diffuser almost making contact. I think they are making contact here. So he's just trying to find the space on the track, the option. But sticking close to the back line. I even see to the point where they're close enough to give him a little bit of aero wash on the M4. Actually harm their cornering ability. Big sweep, big push. Here, Voigt is hunting down Dreschler into the first corner, but curiously does not go for the attacks. Isn't actually pushing as hard as maybe they could to get the position, but maybe that's not the point. With the positions about to flip in a big way with the stint changeover, I don't think that's necessarily their objective. It might be better to just hang back and calm down. We do have more drivers now heading into the pits. This is going to be Megens as well as Busak and Malik. So the changeover is well and truly happening. 45 minutes into this Enduro, and things have shaped up quite nicely. We've got Rode up ahead, almost by 9 seconds at this point, with Brenham and Poor taking second and third, although not for long it may be looking like, as Schneckenberger is breathing down his neck and refusing to yield at any point to this race. Meanwhile, looking to the GT4s, as Strege has had a massive off and has completely come off the track. Let's see exactly what happened with them here. We're coming on to the course. You can see they have lost a bit of time to Penzes before anyway. But now it's coming up to the line, and oh, just a bit too much on the sausage curb. Almost beaching themselves there, but managing to dodge it luckily. Strege is going to be down in 16th and not being the happiest bunny in the world, as they're now 9 seconds behind their rival. Meanwhile, we have Brenham, who has gone into the pits. We have Schneckenberger, who's on the back of Poor, and to point where they have made contact with each other. But Cruton is also in the pits. And Anatoly taking the helm. Schumacher and Martignoni jumping in too, with Bletton joining them. Many different pit stops, all kicking off at once as predicted. Voigt is unfortunately another driver who had a bit of an incident. Let's check on board and see what happened with them. So into the first chicane here, coming up to the back of one of the GT4 cars, just trying to make their way around some traffic. Coming through, you can see the GT4 just sticks the nose in, and that's going to be spinning Voigt round, so has to dip onto the grass and get themselves out of trouble quickly. Sad to see for them, because that is going to mean they are down in 10th place and by a significant margin. All that work to fight up to the back of Dreschler down the drain. Benson and Strege into the pits now as well, meaning that many others, GT4s en masse, are in there now. Here we are, everyone jumping in. On to the end of the line. Rode, Poor, Schneckenberger, Axman, Wagner, Reinders, Dreschler, all coming into the pits as we speak. First stint is at an end. Time to get those drivers swapped, if applicable, and get yourself out of those penalties. You only have 50 seconds. If you don't get it within 50 seconds, you will have technically exceeded your stint. See everyone jumping in now. See, here's Penzes coming in. Yudes is also, but that does leave a couple of cars who might have a bit of a chance here to shake this order up and change things a little bit, change their fates. See, De Buono, we just saw, was alongside a couple of others. But having taken their stint earlier in the course, it does mean that they have technically reset their timer. They will have to take an extra pit stop later, but this might be a chance to make up at least a little bit of time. Bit of time that they can afford to regain, as Yannick Schumacher is out on track, having gone in the lap prior. It's going to be them taking advantage of the situation. Marvin Moritz is now piloting from Busak. And we're going to see a couple of the changeovers that we have witnessed. See, there's going to be a gaggle of cars now going through the first chicane. Jump aboard with the helicopter to see exactly what is happening. It's going to be a hefty wobble here, and 2-3 wide. Oh, that's going to end in disaster. That could go very badly, very fast. We're on board with Boisman, right in the thick of it, just trying to make their way around this GT4 traffic and get themselves out of trouble. There's the two Ferraris behind them as well, who are challenging each other for track space. Might even see a bit of blue flags being waved. Matthias Oystein Brenham chancing it a little bit. See through to Ascari. See, try and see exactly what happened. So going through there and managing to, never mind. They do hit the wall. That is going to be quite a difficult sentence to overcome, and you can see right there, wasting no time while it's fresh off the presses, while they can avoid tires and things like that. They'll be able to get another quick stop in. See, Cash and Schneckenberger have actually swapped positions coming out of the pit stop, so that's going to be pretty big for Lucas. Pit stop completed, both of them continuing for another stint. And now we are going to see these two fight each other for, I think, a good while now, as the gauntlet has been laid down. Lagenberg is into the pits, having pitted in early in the race from the collision. Their stint timers will still be in effect, just slightly offset to the rest of the order. Do have a couple of changeovers as well on this field. Sebastian Brock, for example, taking over from Jan Dreschler and having a bit of a difficult time on track as they need to get themselves settled, but just went off in the first Lesmo. We have Eric Heim, who has overseen the transition from Yannick Axman in the Porsche. And while Wagner and Offerman, of course, sharing the car. Dennis Adler taking over from Dominic Cyprus and the BMW. And has actually got themselves a little bit lucky because they have their own pocket of the course. Andrei Hipov in a 3-wide scenario. Sebastian Brock just up ahead, but also GT4 traffic, proving to be a bit of a disruptor with the move they otherwise had planned. Andre is keen to get that position back, even to the point of dipping into the first chicane, but it's not quite gonna be enough for what they need. Field is challenging the endurance now of these drivers. We've had that earlier dash, but we are now going to see how these drivers fare with a hardcore resilience test. Because it's not just about holding the pace. Of course, you have to have pace in this field and in this competition. But the challenge truly comes when you have a scenario like this. When you have the field pushing and pushing and pushing. Laps on end for 3 whole hours. This is going to be the real test of mettle. Hip-Hop's seeing that already, with Brock continuing their defensive. See, coming up to the back. Very close to an overtake here, heading into Parabolica. See, trying to sneak their way around, pokes the nose into the apex, and does get it through on Parabolica. Can they close the door now? Potential switchback here for Brock if they can hold it all together. Be quite the undertaking, but nicely done there. Not to be outdone. As we see these two head up into the first chicane, though, Schneckenberger and Poor having a bit of a squabble in and of themselves. So let's see what they have in store for us. Schneckenberger on the defensive since taking the move and taking the position away from Poor. They have been an ironclad wall, and they have refused to yield in any capacity. So it's all about that car placement. Schneckenberger, for all the pace he and Paul both have, both averaging about the same lap times. What matters right now is he's not got a chance for Paul to sweep in and take an apex and force him out. Because that's half the overtaking game. It's about having the speed to do it, but also having the wherewithal to position your car in such a way where you're not under any major threats. Do have another scenario where GT4 traffic is going to be playing a part. This Bodauda currently swapped in for Streger. And looking to put on a bit of recovery after what we saw previously. Oystein, having pitted in for that second time, has reset their timer, but is not exactly having an easy run of recovering. Bit of a difficult bump there for Kaj. Having to deal with the traffic as well is never easy in the GT3s. It can sometimes be a big disruptor to moves that you make. It's a tough call. Do you go for the move, potentially put yourself in the firing line with the GT4? Or do you hold back and attack at a better time? It all really depends on how getting around the GT4 goes. Of course, if you have a great run and your opponent doesn't, that's a chance for you to strike. As we see right now, or is within a single tenth of Schneckenberger. And currently is going to be seeing an opportunity. Slipstream down the front straight. Crucial for an overtake into the chicane. Will he commit to it though? That is the question. Could get a little bit of an attack angle here. Not quite, however, Mustang does have a little bit of a straight line advantage, it seems. Might be able to get a bit more grip out in the corners. Focus on the exit. Focus on creating a window. So that will be where the opportunities lie. Oh, get very rough chicane there. Very anti-outer. It seems to be a struggle point for Paul here. Don't know what it is with this part of the track in particular, but they really do seem to struggle with it. Couple more driver changes. We're spotting around the board. We do have Ispan Antal, who is taking the mantle away from Adam Penzes in the other Mercedes we saw fighting earlier, as well as Pascal Gerard taking over from Benjamin in the Aston Martin. So as we hand the baton over to the second drivers where applicable, the second drivers have a unique job on their hands. They both have to work with the scenario that driver one has dealt them. So making up time or just continuing the same fight with the same cars. But that is on top of their own individual performance. And that's what the drivers are thinking about as they switch over, as the drivers do swap. You're keeping an eye on how the other racers perform and how your teammate performs, because you'll need to be ready for the tag in and know exactly what situation you're getting into. And you want to give your teammate the best possible chance as well. Working together does mean you have to be that cooperative force. So despite getting later in the evening, it's looking a little bit lighter here in Monza. The track is actually getting a bit brighter as the sunset does come into view. 6:41 PM local. 2 hours remaining to go on this endurance event, and with an hour under the belts, things are looking good. The wind is calmer than it was at one point, but the track is getting colder. So getting those tyres up into operating temp is going to be of utmost importance. Good move there from Brenham, however, with Badoda not really having much in the way of a counter, allowing the BMW to quickly get through. So that M4 does look rather striking. And this is one thing as well, once again, that I want to say, which is to all of the people, teams who put work into the liveries that these cars are running on a regular basis. This one goes especially out to you, because the liveries and the paints of these cars go a long way to both defining a team as well as making these races very visually exciting. You'll be able to tell at a glance who is where. And that's like one of the most important things. Being able to rep your team in a visually exciting way. Certainly enjoying what's happening, and that is Gottelbe, who has taken over, keep in mind, of the Camaro from Croatia, having a major off. Let's see exactly what happened there with the 407 car. Just going to get a bit of a review. So Gottelbe coming out of the chicane and into Curva Grande. See, there's one of the GT3s coming by. Contact being made. That is going to be very dicey position indeed. You can see having to dodge. So the other cars having to quickly get out of the way. But that's a bit of a double hitter, because you've not only got the 407 car sustaining damage, but that's also been the 105. That is Schneckenberger, who was caught up in that, and after so much fighting, they have conceded the position to Kajpour. And even Eric Heim, who's on the back of them right now, is making a quick dart across, because that front end, losing that aero and that exit speed, has proven to be the death nail this initial run through. I wouldn't be surprised, and yep, there we go. There's Schneckenberger into the pits, having no choice. There's a sitting duck out there with that contact being made. So unfortunately, they will be seeing themselves out in this one, and will be seeing themselves drop to the bottom of the order. So the fight has been lost in a way for them. Sebastian Zaytner taken away from Lucas Rode in the Aston. They will have quite the battle for time, but not the battle for track, because they are 10 seconds away from Poor, and that gap has only grown since the stint has swapped. Zaytner is continuing that early pressure that Rode was so good at putting down. And we are seeing him lapping into the 46.7s at best, and the 47.2s as of last lap. I'm very impressed with this Aston's performance, although Kaj could have a chance to get some time up here. We are seeing that drop down below 10 seconds for a moment there. Traffic has something to do with that one. Couple of pitters. Chris Radke is in the pit as well, so this is going to be their stop taking place. Some good racing had all round. 36 cars remaining on this circuit. Had one misjoin earlier on. Now Schneckenberger back on the course now, and is coming out to a bit of traffic, but is still mighty calm, and does have a bit of breathing room. Now this is where they could potentially move up again. could focus on gaining back time and maybe sneak off a couple of positions. But where it was placed in terms of timing, it does mess up their stint time, as they will have no choice but to take an extra stop in this one. On board with Croydon in the McLaren, trying their best to catch up to Dennis Adler. Currently in the 106 BMW. Smoothness is the name of the game. Milan Kiss coming up to the back of Isvan Antal. Adam Penzes swapping. And currently the defender of P13. Lining up any chance that they could get. Heading into Variante Alta. Closes in a little bit. A little bit wide on the chicane there. Milan. Are they still struggling with front turning? That's what I do wonder. Despite the car being pristine now. Meanwhile, a bit of a problem with Hipov. Let's see exactly what happened with him here. So this is coming out into Ascari. Into the chicane. Keep on the brakes into the first part of the chicane here. And oh, big jump. Sparks coming out of the bottom of that Mustang as they skip over the southern curb and have no choice but to take themselves on to the escape. But that is a big wobble. And now down into 8th place, into the firing line of Sebastian Brock. We'll see with them in a minute. It's Milan Kiss and Isvan Antal continuing to duel. This is Milan Howe getting up ahead, seeing if they can hold the position as GT4s are also down the straight. Quick work being made of them though. That superior speed and aero. Istvan tucking in behind because they don't really have much of an attack avenue. Don't really have much in the way of a counter either to the move that the Mustang made. We'll say I'm looking forward to the driving that takes place after this point. So the field is only going to get tighter and only going to get more frenetic as time goes on. I think when we see the stint change over, we will once again have a bit of chaos as drivers will try to settle themselves in. Check in with a couple of others in the GT4 field as we have Mate and we're one on track. Going to be Ricky Lafleur having a moment there. Let's see exactly what's going on with them. This is Lafleur coming up into Ascari. Seems to be a bit of a problem point for a couple of races. But hop it over the curbs. So this is a bit of a CRT squabble here, and oh, contact made! Lafleur into the wall. Not happy bunnies there at any stretch of the imagination. And Lafleur having a bit of a running in with the other CRT car on track. There might be choice words being held later on. Well, there's Auden Meggans sitting on the back of Ricky Baseman. As a solo driver goes against Meggans, who is swapped in. This is going to be a tough one that we'll keep watching a little bit later on. There's Brenham now chasing Isvan Antal. Mate as well, actually having a chance to go for it here. It's 3 wide Although the GT3 is going to assert its dominance despite some of the damage that they have on the front bumper. We're seeing a trio battle. R11, Mate and Venieris. Audi making a quick sweep to the inside. Great move there. Great challenge coming out from Yolan. Audi now up into second, and Mate being left a little bit in the lurch as we speak. Do also have a challenge further away as Dennis Adler and Anatoly Kroitin. They're drag racing each other into the first chicane. Adler is going to hold command of the corner, but there is going to be that McLaren trying their best to get the exit out and potentially size up into Variante. 70 minutes in, nobody's calming down. The GT4s, in a way, have brought the GT3s together. Isman, Antal, and Brenham. Ooh, making a trade through the chicane. Brenham making a good move on the inside. I'd be a little bit nervous if I was a driver in the top 10 right now, because it could change. Surprising the amount of moves that we are seeing happen on and off the course in the pit strategy. We do have a bit of contact as well, and oh no, that is going to be the CRT Mercedes. There's the flirt round. Having to quickly make an adjustment off into the gravel just to avoid the racing line. See exactly what happened from their perspective here. See Lafleur fending off a couple of GT3s, just taking their normal line through Lesmo 1, dips out a bit wider to allow the GT3s to go on the inner. Again, making their way out and yet just tapping Ferraris there. That's all she wrote. Now is dropping the order and dropping into the firing line of Tamino in the Camaro here. See, here's going to be a lot of chaos. Yellow flag briefly coming in from Hiphoff. Local yellow very briefly appearing. Come from and where will they go? Attacks just keep on coming, particularly with these GT3s. Halfway through the second stint at this point, folks, and the second stint is showing quite a powerful matchup between a few different racers around the course. See how Yalda's doing. So thank you for the correction on the pronunciation there. Let's check in with how Yalda's doing. And things are looking alright for the time being. So he's currently, in fact, he's actually doing really well. You can see that he's currently net P6 here in the GT4 class. He's 6th place in the group and is holding his own. He's got his own pocket of the track, although dealing with a little bit of GT3 traffic. Not really seeing much in the way of challenge from behind. Bletton is nearly 9 seconds away. However, he has got 20 seconds from himself and Beblik, so it looks like unless there's a major shift, that P6 is where he's going to stay for a significant time. There is your Ginetta update. Yeah, out. Isfan Antal continues their challenge on Milan Kiss. Chicane proving to be a great equaliser, is that exit in particular is going to be what makes or breaks any attacks that you have. Antal in this case getting a little bit slower than Milan and allowing them a crucial couple of tenths that they're using to get away. The GT4s on the whole have spread themselves out very significantly. We have Yannick Schumacher, who is 12 seconds ahead of second place holder Marvin Moritz. And then 12 seconds behind that you have the P3 of Nicola Martignoni. The GT4s have thoroughly spread out quite a bit. Alexander Krauk is a couple of seconds behind Martignoni, but isn't proving to be a significant threat at this point. The field is fairly condensed when it comes to Zahenda, with Kajpour and Eric Heim being about, on average, 8 seconds away, 7.1 and 9.4 respectively. This Reinders could be a bit of a disruptor to that if they can keep some good pace over the next 5 laps. They will have a chance to challenge. "75 minutes. We'll be soon coming up to the halfway point of the Enduro, ladies and gentlemen, but of course let us know what you've been thinking. If you've been enjoying it, consider following as well, as we want to build up the English channel as well as the German one. German one will be in the mainstay, but we also want to build up a bit of an audience on the English side, get a bit more consistency on the English broadcasting. We'd hope to have you along for the ride. Things can only get better, particularly with next round that I'm on, because I'll be fixing my automations. Thank you so much for the subscription as well. Do see you there. The Dutch Mountain Rescue. I'm assuming that's what the MNTN means. Thank you very much. We do appreciate it massively. All the support, as well as everyone who supports on things like Patreon. It does go a long way. Running series, building tools, making things better. So check in with a couple of others around the field also, as we do have Reinders, Croyton, Girard, and many others who are not necessarily within striking distance, but they do have a bit of a chance here to disrupt the field a little bit. Eric Heim, for example. You do have Reinders in the back line, but Reinders is actually getting stuck between themselves and a bit of GT4 traffic. You can see having to push through the GT4s is proving to be a strategically expedient element. Some of these racers' efforts. Brought cars together as well as pushed them apart. All down to the positioning. Say best of luck to you in the Suzuka GT4. Have a good night, yes. Thank you. As to you. Curious to see how Marvin Moritz does in all of this. As Yannick is actually peeling away even more time, and Yannick is actually quite a curious case because they've got that early breakaway. They haven't got anyone on the track around them right now, short of GT3s who are working around them. He has gone into hot lapping mode. You can see his current last lap times 56, low 56s at that. So timings are only getting faster and faster. See, there's a bit of a chaotic time currently happening. But let's see what's happened with Martignoni. Going to be from the first TV cam, I think. See them alongside here. Going into the chicane here. Overtaken by one of the GT3s. Making contact with the 113 car. That's going to be Istvan Antal. And they do lose a bit of time, more than you'd think. Because now, look who's behind them. It's going to be Alexander Krauk. Once again, pushing on a position. There, the space is for the taking. There will be plenty of spark left in that tank. It's only about who is going to yield. Croyton on the back of Dennis Adler now. A little bit slower through the chicane, but could pull this back in the Lesmos with a good line. Tolley has been trying to catch up to Adler for a little bit. Has slowly been making up the time. And slowly been making a little bit of space back. Dealing with a bit of GT4 traffic. Adler is up ahead. Might get stuck through Ascari though. It's a bad position to have them in. It's a very bad position. Oh, hops across the curbs there. Croyton having to take off to the gravel. Dirty their tyres. And now 2.5 seconds away. Not looking good for him. Dauda is going to be on the back of Milan Kiss. It's going to be the 114 Mercedes. Madcap getting mad fast. Schneckenberger though has had a bit of an off. Seems gone off the track. Think through the chicane. Valkenberg is also heading into the pits. This is going to be now for the 3rd time. Dauda is trying their best to close in, but it all comes down to how they handle Parabolica. Do they match the line of their opponent? They have a bit more exit speed, looks roughly equal, but they can peel a couple of tenths on the slipstream. Come down the start-finish straight. Are they quite within distance? Not quite. I don't think it's going to be there. I think the Mustang does negate a little bit of that acceleration difference. Good corner there. But getting out wide and powering down early has allowed Milan to break off. Get a bit of time back. Through the chicane as well now. This is going to be Croc. Martignoni in the firing line. Remember, this is a fight for podium here on the GT4 round. This could be huge. We've seen a lot of change-ups in the GT3s, but when a GT4 fight happens, this is one that extends, and this is one that is going to continue to be in a precarious balance. Croc could have a chance here at getting a podium. Of course, the points that would yield could be beneficial for their championship run as a team. The question remains, is there enough time to capitalize on that kind of points gain? With so many drivers here, their championships, their positions could be as good as wrapped. With only one round after this at the Nordschleife. That doesn't mean anyone should stop trying. Because we have seen upsets in the past. Previous seasons, heck, previous weeks, we have seen upsets. We've already seen a few cars that were performing really well get taken out and taken down the pecking order. Heck, we're looking at Megan's right now, who's on the back of Mazeman. Dennis Reinders also be a challenger here. It's the Ferrari peaking, looking for a shot at glory. Quickly sweeping their way through. It's just coming out of Ascari. Did get close, but the exit speed was not in their favour. Fortunately, that did come to bite them. Into Parabolica now. There's a chance to make that change. As Milan has headed into the pits, but is back out now. It's the 110 Mustang, remember? Bit of a squabble with the GT4s. Beblick has got ahead of
Martignoni. Do you think we have actually seen a bit of an issue? Let's check back in and see exactly what happened to Martignoni here. Coming through Curva Grande and on the defense. Was previously much further up ahead. There is going to be an overtake from one of the Mustangs in the GT3. Goes out wide. There's one of the GT3s as well. Looks like just a tiny bit of contact. Actually, not much to be said. Though, never mind that then. As we do have the fight continuing with Meggans and Baseman. Remember folks, we are coming up to the halfway point of the Enduro, so this is where the second stints are going to start appearing for drivers. The second pit stops, of course, remember 48 minutes, and if you exceed that on your stint time, then you will be subject to a hefty penalty. Let's see what these racers are showing us. And who is going to be the one to watch as things are getting underway. And things will soon be shaping up. Just trying to get an exact reading on the stint timers for everyone. Or how long they have spent on this stint. Trying to find out exactly who and where. But we do have a bit of a spotter's guide internally that we'll be using to check whether everyone's been honest. 47 laps in, wouldn't be surprised if we get to 100 laps by the end. We do have a bit of a trade-off. This is going to be a battle. Gerard and Brock swapping through the chicane. Brock on the back foot. And getting the move done into turn one. Is Brock going to have a counter? Peeks towards the left. Refuses to allow that one to go quietly. Has the apex of the chicane, but going for the switchback. Is going to really be pushing 110% to get this move back and done. Lesmo 1 now, holding the line. Lesmo 2. Seemingly got it, got the confirm into Ascari, and then they might be home free, but Gerard is not going to let this one slide. No, Serie coming down under the bridge. Bit of GT4 traffic that could prove disastrous. It's all about timing here. Brock could be in for trouble. Looks like we've had a bit of an incident, and oh, that is wobbly. That is big there. That has resulted in Brock dropping down back behind Gerard. We do have some issues with cars around the circuit. We did have a bit of an incident with the 411 car. Let's see exactly what happened. This is Banyeres in the Audi going alongside another of the GT4s, this time the red Mercedes. Going up into the chicane. We'll stick on board with the helicopter, see exactly what happened from bird's eye view. Contact made. One of them goes off, the other into the grass. So unfortunate as that will be a problem to be addressed swiftly. Meggans currently into the order and into the fold. Baseman continues to be a thorn in their side. Baseman being one of the main barriers between themselves and the top 10. 11.5 seconds stretching after that point. That they could open up the taps and by all means just run away. This hunt. Traffic continues to be a concern for the top runners. R11 is now into the pits for their second stop and third stint. We're going to see other cars very soon doing the same, as they will be coming up to the ends of their stints soon. 7:10 PM, which means that the sun is no longer hitting the track in any capacity and the wind is actually starting to pick up. So if anyone's got more pitch sensitive cars, going to be a problem that they'll have to deal with.
1 minute 30 on the clock. 20 degrees at one point, but now down to 18 on the track surface. So temperatures are going to become more and more of a concern as we head into the evening. Yeah, that is going to be Megan's now into the pits rather than fighting. I think they've opted to go for a little bit of a more pacifist strategy. See a incident report coming in for Radke. Let's see exactly what happened here. This is the Ferrari on 19. And up to the back of the Bentley here. See, just, yeah, a little bit of contact. Luckily, no major dangers. But still, that's one way to annoy your opponent, is give them a little bit of a knock on the door and a tap on the back. But Radke's making a big wobble out of Ascari, not actually having much luck in the way of exit. They're going to see themselves be overtaken by another GT3. In this case, that is going to be the number 121 car. That's going to be Benny Benson. Against hitting into the pits. Doing the same. So it tells our leaders. Cash Poor has actually made up a fair amount of time to Zentner. Remember, at one point 13.5 seconds, but now down to 6. So has got quite a lot of headway. Which has been great to see. You're seeing quite a push. I think Hippos timers and positioning is a bit of a question mark there. I don't think that's quite right. Tio Zentner is going to be leading this one and will potentially be heading into the pits in just a moment. So they were one of the last to pit out in the stint. And we do have more now heading in. So we have, for example, Oystein Brenham, Benny Benson, among others, now pitting in. Penultimate pit stop of the session for most. Some will have to take one extra. Sadly, that is the way of things. So there's a bit more of an extension coming here from Zentner. They're going to take it another lap. Remember, the 48 minutes does allow them, considering they went right to the ragged edge, they could technically take this all the way to 124. But I think to play it safe, they're better off taking it just to the end of this lap. That would put them squarely on 125 time. You don't want to be playing a game of chicken when it comes to the pit timer. The stewards are not going to take so kindly to that liberal approach to time. Brenham now out of the pit lane and already catching a bit of heat. That is going to be the Bentley just up ahead of them. Them certainly a bit of pressure work under. See, this is Wagner currently leading them here in the 116. Wagner is actually doing really well currently in P5. Okay, the Bentley flying under the radar a little bit. Isman Antal taking a couple of positions as we see Croyton and Budauda both going out ahead. Do have yellow flags coming in for some as they make their way out. So Aki and Marcelo. We do see Schneckenberger
on the defense. Croydon is currently out of the pit lane and into P12. The leaders now heading into the pit lane on Master Hentner, Paul, Reinders, Heim, Wagner, just to name a few. They're all making their way in. This is where we see the second half of the 3-hour Enduro officially begin. Milan actually getting a bit of a position up as Badauda is going to be wobbling on the exit of the pit lane. A little bit of time lost there, and the Mustang is going to capitalise on that readily. But everyone at the top is now heading into and out of the pits. Zahentner going to be coming out again. I don't think we're seeing a swap from his camp. Zahentner is staying in the car. But we'll check in, use this chance to check in, as we do have Yannick Schumacher retaining lead. So, like before, they pitted in a little bit earlier than the rest of the field. They pitted in just a lap prior. This is going to give a chance for others. So Busak back in the hot seat. Swapping back in for their teammate. Moritz did a good job, but now it's time for Busak to get back on the throttle. Berblik and Krauk now heading out as well. Paul Bonge is back. Schneckenberger committed all the way through. Baseman and Antal now heading out of the pits. Here we go, everyone barring a couple now getting out there, getting their pit stops completed. Yout and Lafleur completing their stops. So he's just Felix Kamrad now currently sat in the pits and is getting their stop completed as well. Van Brens went up to the back of Ispan Antal, swapping in for Oren Meggins. Taking a bit of a chin for the team. Flying their way through. Gotta say, quite an interesting turnaround with some of these cars and some of these drivers, seeing how they have really made the best of their situation, even if they have had incidents and things not gone their way. Still made the most of it, they still capitalised. That's what it's about. It's about showing how we can see the racers perform in a variety of situations. They're adaptable. Show that they can race. Whatever the condition, whatever the scenario, whatever the course may bring. With Croydon, he's done a very good job throughout this entire event. Just, for the most part, keeping his head down. Sometimes that's the way to handle these enduros, is you got to keep your head down. You got to get yourself a bit of breathing room. Crazy thing is, we've got Rode back in the hot seat in the Aston Martin. But is already gained 2 seconds on Cash Paul. So Cash, I think, is a solo driver. And yes, that is confirmed, they are a solo driver. But they were making up time previously to when Zahentner was in the car. Rode, showing himself to be a force to be reckoned with, has already gained 2 seconds of time. The 48.5 versus a 46.8, and fastest time of the session, in fact, from Rode right now. We have the likes of Stefan Behrens, who is continuing to put on steady pressure on their rivals out on the course. They're not going to be disturbed, they're not going to be perturbed by any other threats. We are actually seeing a little bit of fog coming onto the circuit, or at least it's not looking as clear at distance as maybe the drivers are expecting. Nothing to disrupt the racing, but it's enough to be noticed. See if that changes anything at all as we head later into the day. Here we are in sync with the location and the real-time passing. Slow progression of time is starting to rear its head and introduce itself in some unique ways. So we have an odd one here. Do have a lot of cars who have simply found some room, then from there have not had to fight for major moves. Just focus on making up time for their respective teammate, so the tag-in is as smooth as possible. Even with the GT3 traffic happening around them, the GT4s have kept a very cool and collected demeanour. There hasn't been, short of a couple moments, any real flashpoints between the two classes. Always happy to see no major dramas, no major issues. I think this is, as well, is where we see the drivers now start to see a little bit of a mental fortitude issue come to play. Because I would not be surprised if the drivers are starting to feel a little bit of that stress. We've got enough of the fighting, and for some of these races, fighting that has not stopped for a good amount of the race distance now. Like we see here, Behrens Penzes. Penzes has been fighting one car or another for so much of this race. He's not going to have any kind of luxury. And that gets to a driver. You're not having an easy time, and you can get swallowed up in the fight. Start to make callous mistakes instead of focusing on time. Jacksman is, for example, one of those drivers who has got a little bit of a pocket, but hasn't necessarily got out of the woods. So they are still pushing forward to try and challenge on the likes of Reinders, currently sat in P3. Wouldn't have that kind of pressure normally, but it's because they are in such a high position that even with no one tailing them, certainly feeling a bit of that anxiety. GT4 traffic potentially standing in their way. It's a tough call. It's a tough act to follow. Naxman has proved their worth, for sure, as a driver here. But the road is not over yet. Have lost a bit of delta time because of traffic maneuvers, but Reinders is luckily in the same boat. At least that you can share and sympathise on a little bit. Axeman actually making up some very good time through Parabolica there. See, let's jump on board. In fact, let's jump on board with the Porsche to really capture the essence of that fight forward. Let's hear the sound, appreciate the car for a second. Beautiful. Beautiful sounding car. We are going to take a quick moment to look around the course, as we did see a bit of an issue for, I believe, Hippuff a moment ago. So we're going to quickly check in on him and see... Oh, something has happened. That is not the one I meant to be clicked on. We will check nonetheless. So this is Penzis going up to alongside. That is with Behrens. They're going to go side by side through the chicane. Oh, a little bit of bump and into the wall there. So that was Penzis. But let's have a look at what we wanted to see, which was Hiphoff's moment. Doesn't look like that's quite going to be possible, unfortunately. Axeman, we're back to. Penzis continues his fight, but we did see... from what I can tell on the recap, Hiphoff was alongside and into Ascari, but didn't quite get the exit. Jumped a bit on the curb. Meanwhile, Penzis is going through the first chicane and getting a bit sideways with Behrens. So challenging for that spot, challenging for the position, and I think returning a bit of the same affection that we saw last lap. Extending the same courtesy, so what I think some people like to call it. I think that's what happened here. So he extended the same courtesy, and that's how he currently sat a little bit ahead by about a second of Behrens. Down in the GT4s, Paddy Malik could be making a move on Vanyeris. You can see there's the Audi up ahead. It's a little bit wide through Ascari. Now with the GT4s, you don't have the same kind of traffic issues you do with the GT3s. They're the slower car in this ordeal, but what you have instead is a bit of a difficult time overtaking. Instead, you don't really have the same luxury, because the rule is, say the racing rules are, you have to keep a consistent line. You have to keep balanced, and you have to keep within the racing line so that you are predictable. You are predictable, it makes the GT3's life a lot easier to get around you. So with all that being said and considered, if you're a GT4 looking for an overtake, and you see a GT3 behind you flashing their lights or coming up close, you are not going around that car. GT3 is going to be moving outside before you do. And that is where you are going to have a bit of a quandary. But ultimately, you're going to have to hold back on the attack. Lose your opportunity potentially. You need to choose survival in these races. Euros. Yes, you can make up time, but at this level of performance, a costly mistake like that could be a round ender in terms of your points. Looks like we do have 35 cars, as Felix Kamrad in the SRK 414 is out of action, out of commission, has remained in the pits for an extended period of time, so I think they are counted as out here. So we go to Voigt on the back of Dreschler once again. The fight has been reignited now that the drivers have swapped back in. Loving this back and forth, loving these challenges. Seeing
Voigt is still hunting. Milan is now heading into the pits along with De Buono. There will be the drivers who will disrupt this order, but we'll wait for that when they come out. Meanwhile, still on this chase and still on this hunt. We do have Milan Kiss now coming out of the pits and back onto the racing surface, but it's going to be tucked behind a lot of other cars, and we'll see how they navigate through some of this traffic later. See wobble coming from Dreschler there. A bit of a rough exit out of Parabolica. This could be the Aston's chance. The BMW is right there for the taking. Coming up to the back fender, coming up to the wing. Tucking into the aero. Are they going to commit to it? They're right up close. Jumping on the brakes. No commit there. By all accounts, it looks like they were going to peel up alongside, but not quite here. Maybe not quite feeling the throttle, not quite feeling the grip. Schneckenberger into the pits now. Having their pit stop. A bit of an interesting timing wise. An interesting one. Milan having got through a little bit of traffic in their way on their exit. Now has a chance to make up time. Pick up a bit of room. Pressure forwards. Vladimir Malik also has started to catch up a little bit to Vanyeris. It will be a car that we eagerly watch. But for now, eyes firmly locked on this GT3 hunt. Brutal hunting down. See, here comes Dreschler's and Voigt's fight all the way through up into Parabolica here. The BMW's diffuser almost giving it a cinematic look, and I've only just realised that here. Didn't realise that's how it looks. It's almost as if we've got some cinematic black bars on the experience, but there's Youds on the GT4 front into the first chicane once again. Voigt is staying back. There's no major challenge. I think Voigt's trying to just use him at this point for the space, and as if to say, tow me through this race. Give me that knife's edge, that cutting edge through the air, so I can run further and more efficiently. If that is the play, that is a strategic one and a very clever one in that. Well, here comes Vladimir Malik onto the back of Vanyeris now. Coming right up close into Parabolica though. Very dicey moment. The GT3 just barely blocking the potential move that could have been. And Vladdy is now in a bit of an odd spot because Vanyeris is just too far away to get any meaningful slipstream. Not to mention the reduced aero. That is going to lower the amount of potential drag reduction that a slipstream can give them. The way they're up, down into the first chicane, up, down, right, left. And a good exit for the both. Into Curva Grande. And now we'll see how these two really fight mano a mano. Half a second split. Could see that shrink. Voigt and Dreschler continue to challenge one another, but we'll keep an eye on them in due course. Maybe get a replay if we have to. A bit of a wobble over the chicanes there. Alec is trying to get a move, get as much as they can. It's not quite happening, but here we go, checking back up on Voigt here. So close up to the back and just doesn't commit to it. It just doesn't quite happen. They will be a driver who I think is just biding their time.
Curious as to whether this move is going to be happening at any point. Here's Banyeras and Malik through Serie now. Good exit here is everything. That's going to be absolutely crucial. Croatia is also looking for a challenge, but right now you can see, here we go, this is very close between the two, much closer than we saw previously. Alec might be actually teeing up something here as we head into the start of lap 57 for these two. So meanwhile, the top Yannick Schumacher 22.5 seconds away from Busak, despite their best efforts, is struggling to close that time. Alec closing right in on the back of the Audi. Croatia also having a bit of a fight of their own. As you can see, here is the 570S of Dieter Bletten. Rode has pulled the gap back out between himself and Kajpour in P1 and T2. Back up to 13.3 seconds, and I would not be surprised if that reaches 15 before the stint changeover final. Here's the Camaro right on the back. Croatia's had an up and down race so far. Had a couple of wobbles, but that's not going to hold him back from this challenge. Is trying to get a good move in through Parabolica and set themselves up for the chicane right to the back here. Very close. This could be the time that they go for it, tucking in as much as they can, but then peeling to the right side. Actually slowing down a fair amount. Try and regain it. Regain the attack potential. There you go. It's going to stick it to the inside, but the GT3 is going to go make it 3 wide. Here through the first chicane. Someone's bumping over the sausage curb. Croatia's going to lose out as the traffic becomes a major impedance here. Croatia actually loses out more on the time. Bletten getting a bit of a lucky hand in the form of a Mercedes and a Ferrari. They're not out the woods yet, but still going to be able to fight a little bit longer to hold on to their spot. Remember, this is the fight for P9 here. P8, looking from Bletten's perspective. Rode making through Lesmo 1 and 2. Unstoppable 46.3 from Rode, by the way. That is the fastest lap of the session, and that is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, Mark Offerman is currently piloting the Bentley that is under siege by Dominic Cyprus. BMW and the Continental. Out, we head down into the chicane Variantialto. As you see, flashing the lights, tucks to the left, but then quickly goes back on his word. Oh, the Bentley almost getting psyched out there and goes very wide through the chicane. Offerman is off the course and down into P6. Hipolf is not in the way, was that could have been a bit dicey one. There you go. Voigt is also managed to get round finally. That is the challenge that they were looking for. Dreschler now being stuck behind GT4 traffic, and Voigt is being given the space to get away. Already, immediately, 1.5 seconds being drawn out there. Certainly say that was a good result for them. Croatia is going to be jumping across the first chicane practically and getting a move down on Bletten, but can they hold on to it? It's going to be Dieter Bletten. Yeah, misreading names left, right, and centre. I do apologise, folks. Croatia is currently on the defensive. Bletten does have a chance to make this back. It's going to be hard fought. We're now soon to be crossing into the final hour of the event. Things are looking like, in the GT4 camp at least, fairly stable. We have a couple of battles that are raging on in this case for P8. Also do see a lot of drivers who are spaced by as much as 20, 30, 40 seconds. I'll be surprised if we see those gaps only grow over the course of a race, but the GT3s are in a similar story. Much more in the way of chaos. We are currently sat on board with a very tight-knit squad of cars, anchored to Vanyeris. Situation is looking like a dire one, as Malik is looking for a shot at a position. GT3s have made their way round, but this has led an opportunity and left Vanyeris open. Good speed coming through from Malik. GT3 passing on the left, but that's not going to stop him here. The 411 on his inside. Malik is going to have a challenge heading into Parabolica, but the Audi has the apex. Can they hold this one on? They're going narrow, and it does manage to get back out ahead, but a good exit here from the GT4s could have a big impact on this fight. Malik wobbles on throttle. That rear axle does get a little bit out of step. Going to challenge regardless. He's going to close that gap. Reel in the Audi. The Audi's going to go in defensive position into the apex of the first corner. Effectively going to close the door off to the GT4 Mercedes. Meaning that the 412 is going to have to fight a little bit more. We are into now the final hour, folks. Things have had a pretty good run. Been frenetic moments. Field is seeing a rare sense of calm beyond a couple of cars. Lorenz is 1 second away from Penzes. Dreschler 1 second away from Voigt. Hiphoff 1.5 from Offerman. 2 seconds between Bletten and Croce. And then Malik continues their challenge on Vanyeris. But we do see Dreschler having a bit of a wobble, bit of an incident. We're not seeing quite what happened. Though we will check to see if we can get a bit of a replay and see exactly what happened there. So this is a replay with Dreschler, seeing why they got a bit of a local yellow. So heading off to the inside, taking a bit of a move past the GT4 and bumping into the gravel there. Looks like that's all that was, but still, it's contact and it's still not good. This brief bump has got Vanyeris back in the firing line of Flatty Malik. Oh, no rest for him here. Coming up to the chicane, and once again I think we're going to see the Audi going into a defensive stance. Head down the course. Vanyeris on the inner. Malik having to tuck in behind. Oh, but that's a spin. Vanyeris is out of this one. This fight has come to an abrupt end as the Audi has spun himself. He was on the chase. Let's take a quick replay and a bit of a recap on exactly what happened there. So you can see there was Vanyeris on the defense into the first chicane, and you can see just too much throttle, and that's all she wrote. That is out of the order there. Sad to see, but there you are. 55 minutes on the clock. And we are really starting to get into the hours of the night now. It's coming up to 8 PM local. And the track is nice and cool at a pretty chill 17 degrees. We will have the challenge coming out from a couple of drivers, though. Behrens and Penzes reunited. Their fight will be a substantial one. As they are within fairly close proximity. So we are having a bit of an issue with a couple of the GT4s, which we'll check out in a moment. So there's an incident with Alexander Croak and a yellow flag coming out for the number 415, which is Thiago Cruz. But Behrens is our car to watch here. They are trying to do all they can to catch up to Penzes, although it's not really working in the way that they'd hoped at this stage. Blue flags being waved in a fairly common sight at this point. Oh, saying that there's contact happening between one of the GT4s and one of the GT3s. Let's take a quick back look at that. So that is Penzes. Penzes is going to be challenging alongside. That is going to be the number 404 car. I think that is say, oh, Yannick Schumacher had a bit of a, so that's actually, my mistake. That is not Yannick. That is going to be, I believe, 415. That is Cruz, I want to say there. Yeah, so that was Thiago Cruz that they got involved with. And it looks like we're having a bit of a wobble here for Aki Raunio, as Rossetti has just managed to get by. It's a bit of a wild card with the Alpine being here. Not a car that you tend to see on these grids, but a welcome addition, as it does give a bit of variety, and I say with the deep blue and the white, a rather striking addition too. Behrens continuing their challenge and assault on Penzes. Halfen Offerman also in fights of their own, but Jan Dreschler will be hoping to get some time up too, particularly with this stint coming up. So final stint will soon be happening, ladies and gentlemen. So once we cross to around the 40 to 35 minute mark, we will see drivers now consider going in for their final stops. 48 minutes on the timer does mean that you can have drivers pitting as early as now or as late as 36 minutes, I do believe, if the napkin math serves. The commentator napkin maths. If it does serve, then that is what we can be expecting. Bueno. Looking like a bit of a tight spot for him here, as they are, of course, currently down the bottom of the order for the GT3s, but is still going to be a driver that is one to watch. We have Crochet on the back of Ricky Lafleur. After a bit of an altercation, Crochet is up into an attack for P7, and it looks like there's a bit of bump draft going on, as the yellow for contact has popped. Is coming out, and Crochet's going to go for a similar attack that got them the move last time, which is sending it into the chicane. But that has worked out here, and Crochet is currently sat in a tidy P7. Tidy P7 indeed. Though GT3s are going to continue to overtake, this does form a bit of a difficult spot for them, but not for the GT4s, who have largely run their own pocket. You see some challenge happening with the GT3s to that effect, as the blues continue to be waved. Rode's actually done insanely well, 16 seconds away from Cash. 16 seconds. Cash is doing very well in their own right, being the highest car to be a solo competitor, highest position, considering Zahentner and Rode share the 104 Aston. Really giving that commitment, that resilient nature. It's on full display here, let me tell you. They're trying their best to catch up, but the Camaro proving its worth as a racing machine. The GT3s now scything their way through. That could be even more disruption to the races. The GT3s really are the ones that suffer in this whole ordeal, as this is Dreschler and Ben Voigt again. Benzes and Behrens. Benzes, I think, had a little bit of an off track. And yes, that was going to leave Behrens up ahead. A bit of an Ascari outing. Going to leave them hanging. Even with the GT4s now actually proving to be a formidable disruption, that's not going to deter him from trying to take the move back. Headlights are officially on now as it gets darker and darker here on track. Oh, Andrei Hipov is really going for it here. That's Offerman on the defensive, but Hipov on the inside, heading through in Parabolica. Nice and gripped up on the acceleration. Good exit here. Can Offerman counter? Well within the wake of the Mustang. And not too much being gained here from the slipstream. It's going to peek to the left, as they can see the defensive move coming in. A bit of a rough exit on the chicane for the Bentley, and that is going to be all the opportunity that Hipov needs to take this one forward. That's all she wrote. Benzes is continuing on their fight against Behrens. Let's tune back in with them. Offerman doesn't seem to be making up much in the way of time. Now we just see GT3s and they're pathing around from the GT4. Yannick Schumacher is doing an immaculate job in that GT4 class. Not only leading by 25 seconds, but doing so as a solo competitor. Usak has put down a brilliant example of pace, but they've been swapping out as well with Moritz. I think we'll be swapping out for Moritz on this final stint too. A good exit from both out of the chicane.
We have a bit of a wobble coming in from Martignoni, apparently. They had a brief off in Lesmo 2. Just no, that is the first chicane mistake. Brief off in the first chicane, and that has given them a brief yellow. But we're at 45 minutes, folks, which means we are now in the segment which we would consider to be the finale of the race. Everyone is going to have to go in for their final stint / pit stop soon. And then it's a no-holds-barred race to the finish. We are going to really see the teeth being bared from many competitors on the circuit. The race will be drawing to a close before long. A quick run-ins being shown. Question is, who is going to be the first to pit in? We've already had a couple of pits, but those pits were much earlier in the race, so they will not be of the same gravity, of the same value. Pit stint timer is everything. I do also wonder if there's a bit of variance in the pit timer. Here comes Croatia in the Camaro here. Yes, I don't think we've seen much of Amino Gottlieb. I haven't seen much of him here. Busak is now heading into the pit lane themselves and is going to be coming out again themselves. So we're not seeing the drivers being necessarily swapped around as one would think. Accurately, someone to tag in and out as required. I'll also be starting to see some of the GT3s going in, as we have just witnessed with Behrens now heading into the pit. Benny Benson has also gone in for his final stop. Ricky Lafleur following suit. Eri Wirawan is back out here again. They've swapped out for Fladdy. Home from an early stop. But this is going to be the one to take it home. We have just coming out of the pits now. It's the 1-2-1 of Benny Benson. Herens and Budoda are heading in also. See the leaders push out for a little bit longer, as Rode is currently pushing in bigger gap. 46.612 last lap and best. But consistently running very good timings indeed. The closest Paul could make was a 46.8. So we've got the 112 car now heading out of the pits, and that is Behrens. Budauda is going to be soon to follow. In the GT4 side, we now have Ricky Lafleur coming out of the pits, Martignoni heading in. One more lap, I think, here coming out from Lucas Rode before they hand the baton, if they choose to do so, to their teammate. Driver flying under the radar for a good chunk of this race has been Yannick Axman. They haven't really been putting much of a foot run in any way, shape or form. They've just stuck to their pocket of the corner, stuck to their race, and they have put down consistent laps to help and support their team. Like with the leaders, going to be going out for one more lap at least before deciding to make that judgment call. Broughton and Brenham are heading out of the pits as well. There's the BMW of the 103. So Oystein Brenham currently holding a decent position. So Bletton is going to be dropping a spot owing to being in the pits. They will be shortly chasing, because there's Yannick Schumacher headed into the pits once again earlier than the others. Marcus Babkick, or Babkick, is going to be the driver who holds provisional lead at the GT4s. Dominic Cyprus heading in for GT3.
Raunio is in. Schumacher is out. More cars to follow, I think, as we head into the pits for some of the rest of the roster. There you go, actually get quite dark here now. I think it's only going to get more and more so. The night has arrived. And with that, a new challenge. A new challenge is awakening. Raunio in the pits. Felix Kamrad still in the pits from earlier. So I initially read that as, oh yeah, 36 competitor, but they've been in the pits since lap 36. Meaning that, I don't know about you folks at home, but I don't think we're going to be seeing them on track. Just a suspicion. Don't think we'll see them. Banyeres is going to be fighting a little bit with Mate. And with a bit of on-track traffic. But they found themselves in their own pocket. We have got some time left as the field is going to condense in some interesting places with a couple of pit stops left to go, particularly in the GT3 field. Most of the GT4s have already done their time, but now it's time for the top dogs to head in. You can see Rode is in, along with hopefully a few others. Rode has really pushed the boundary on their stint timer. They know exactly what they can extract out of it. I think we're going to see the same for many other GT3 cars as they now head their way in. Well, yellows, and it's going to be a brief yellow. Berblik and Radke also. There has been a bit of a contact made, I think, between them, but nothing major, it seems. There we are, there's Poor, there's Rode, Reinders, Axman, all heading in. Will we see the same from the lower GT3s, or the ones from P5 onwards? I imagine so. Last couple of GT4s as well to head in, so it's Berblik, Krauk, among others, all heading in. So there's Hippalf in, Offerman in as well. They're all rolling their way down to the pit lane. Oh, it's Schneckenberger quickly darting their way around. They'll make as much of an impact as they can. We also see Raunio on the defense this time. It's been fairly quiet, but Thiago Cruz is now challenging. Knocking on the door of destiny. Who will answer? E13 hangs in the balance between these two. We've seen a lot of the GT3s and the last few GT4s who have yet to do so take their rightful place in the pit lane. See, there is going to be one of the GT3s coming through. Proving to be a little bit of a disruption. That was Chris Radke in the 119. But undeterred, Yannick Schumacher has taken back the lead of this stint and taken back their position at the top of GT4. Lucas Busak is trying to close up some time as well, but it's not really happening at this stage. Keep a lookout. This is 402. Then a 404 car. much larger gap than one would hope for. 27.5 seconds to be exact. Eblik 11 seconds away from Busak. He's taking this right to the end. Yeah, 35 minutes remain on the clock. Penzes is out of the pits. And I think that marks one of the last hitters on the course. See how these cars do with running aggressive and chasing for their rightful position. Hip hop on the back of Dennis Adler. The fight is back here. And this has been the challenge that we have seen rear its head a couple of times, but never in a massive way that has altered the course of the race. Brenham on the back of Brock here, who has tagged in. Dreschler is out. Brock is in, but Brock is under threat as Brenham is going to challenge and successfully take P10 through the first chicane. Hip-Hop as well will be one to watch as they head through into Variante Alto, and then the Lesmos with Adler firmly being in their sights, having to yield a bit on the apex, a bit too sharp on the entry. Swift exit from Lesmo 2 is going to see Adler just out of reach for the moment. Use this final half an hour to take a bit of a roundup of your current field, ladies and gentlemen. So, 16 seconds ahead of Kaj Paul, but down from 20. It is going to be Sebastian Zahenna for the 104 Aston Martin. Kaj Paul is going to be in the 101 and is flashing some GT4 traffic to swiftly move and allow them passage, with Yanis Reinders a little bit further away, 12.5 seconds, but doing solidly in P3. For a side note, we do have Adler and Hip-Hop going back and forth, so Adler's lost the position from Hip-Hop on the exit into Parabolica, but here's the chance for the retake. Adler on the inside, going into the chicane. Has got quite a nice line through. And will be seeing a sharp attack. Looking good here and looking nice and swift. The field is going to be numerous and the field is going to be swift. Few other cars who are looking to get some moves. It's going to be Schneckenberger. Now, Schneckenberger hasn't had the best luck throughout this race. They haven't really been dealt the best hand. They were fighting at the sharp end of the field, and now they're currently relegated to P12. They had that incident with one of the GT4s, and that really did knock them down. I think not just in terms of the race position, but in terms of confidence too. The mental game is a hard fought one, and it's not one that can easily be won back after a hit of concentration. Now in Schneckenbergen's case, they would have had was the damage, but also just the struggle to get back into the zone, back into focus. That's sometimes even harder than the move itself. The driving itself. Here we go, there's Girard and Croyton. World with a great move there, taken away from Voigt and into the hot seat of the 109 Aston. Immediately making good work of that car. Even Croydon out to dry in the 118 McLaren. Bit of GT4 traffic to prevent a move from happening in the McLaren camp. Just getting him boxed in there. Gotta say, nicely done on the position. Well, Wagner, like I said, do correct on the pronunciation there. Driver that we will watch, but Hiphoff is looking to be the talk of the session, at least for the stint, as Adler is going to be their one sole target, and like a cruise missile, they are firmly locked on and are hunting with deadly precision. Here we go, past the GT4 Mercedes, down into Parabolica. Half an hour left to make this happen, and I keep it that way. Wide wash out of Parabolica, or narrowing back in, trying to get more speed on the exit. See what we're doing there, Andre. Then go up to the first chicane. Will there be that toss, that commit? No such move. The Adler is going to be feeling that pressure, with Hiphoff being such a pertinent threat. This will be showing their colours, showing their power here. The field is certainly going to be up in a bit of a pickle, I think, because you're going to have a lot of cars who want to make moves up, but there's just too much time between them. I mean, look at Vanyeris. Look at Vanyeris right now. 50 seconds, 5-0, ladies and gentlemen. That is a seriously large deficit, and that is going to be seriously difficult to overcome. I would not be surprised if we see a lot of drivers start to actually release pressure rather than pile it on, just because in a championship of endurance like this one, the priority is keeping the race in control, keeping your points and positions that you have. So unless you're in a situation like Adler and Hiphoff, where they're right next to each other and heading into the chicane side by side, a bit of a squeeze there coming from the BMW, but the Mustang is having to relinquish the attack for now, or yield on the attack. But no, I think I would be expecting some of the drivers up and down the field, rather than trying to push forward, unless they're within a couple of seconds, to just focus on locking their position in. So not driving too aggressively, but still having a healthy fight, healthy push, and ultimately getting themselves into a space where they're not going to be challenged. They can just bring home the result for the team. Yes, Reinders currently being chased by one of the lower positions in GT3. That's Strege in the Mercedes, a lap behind. He's down in P16, but Reinders in P3. And this is exactly what we mean. If I was Reinders right now, I'd be pushing, but I wouldn't be pushing to catch up to Cash Poor. I'd be pushing to get away from Eric Helm, who's taken the mantle away from Yannick Axman for the last stint of the race here. Just to get that safe pocket, to get that defensive space. Nothing more, nothing less. Won't need anything else. Good with Schumacher, Busak and Beblik in the first, second and third spots respectively. Beblik's actually made up quite a bit of time. All things considered, made up very good time to Lucas Busak, who was previously at one point about 12 seconds ahead. That has shrunk to 7.5. I would not be surprised if we see them start to come into potential contact if he wants to really push for it. Depends how the strategy lies and how they want to control their race. Looking forward, it's going to be Lasse Streger. 114 Mercedes right now. Currently giving it everything they've got. Their one sole objective, very simple. Catch up to Istvan Antal. 1.5 seconds is not a lot of time to gain if they really lock it in for the next couple of laps. The important thing here is they just need to keep a consistent run. Use their car's strengths to their advantage, so really push on those chicanes. Push where you can on the corners. Mustang won't have that same level of grip I think they were expecting. So being able to give it their all on the attack specifically throughout the exits or corners, I think that's going to be the play. So I do apologise for a bit of background noise. I was just replacing my headphone battery as it had run out. I charged a fresh battery before we started, but the 3-hour enduro is apparently its limit. So looking back to the chicane, and we do see now the cars illuminating the circuit rather than the sun above, and also liking some of the neon accents that we have on some of these cars. It is something special, particularly purple, the neon green, some of the reds that are coming out, as well as the other lighting. Driver numbers in the windows. Rather pretty. In a way, it is rather pretty. Here's Hipov continuing to push. Barely able to keep within a second right now, though. I think he's struggling as Adler's found a bit of a groove. Not got another challenger for at least half a minute, but not stopping him from pushing. So at this point you were looking at 79 laps completed, and a bit of a rough one there. That's Hipov coming over curb. They're about 85, 86 laps completed for GT3 and about 78, 79 completed for GT4. So the pace difference does add up over the course of a session. It really does put a lot of pressure on the racers. But here we go into the chicane, side by side here, Streger versus Antal. And in a way, we've got our favourite fight back. We've got the lime green versus red Mercedes GT3s. Welcome back, and oh no, just as we say that, there's a loss of the rear for Istvan Antal. That is brutal, as Streger is actually, I think, getting caught up in the middle of that. There we go, let's take a right on the back. Let's see a look, and if there was contact being made, 1-3-1-3 and 1-1-4, and there you go, there was contact made. And in fact, that does explain why Streger does opt to yield and allow back through. Back up to it though. This is Streger now pushing Antal once again, seeing how they can challenge each other. Antal onto the inside, Streger on the outside. Penzes taking a bit of a break and a bit of a back seat for this one. He said, you know what, I'm going to let my teammate handle this inevitable rivalry, this inevitable battle. Let's see him handle it. See how he does. Strigger's on the hunt. On to the left side. No major challenge. Certainly a push. Bit of a push and a bit of a pinch to try and get themselves moving. Australia's continuing that pressure, but Oystein Brenham is quickly going to be making themselves into the single digits. Croydon is on the defense, but they don't really have a counter to a very rapidly approaching BMW in the 103. The GT3 battles have started to pipe up. We eagerly await what will come. There is a slow hunt down for perfection in these laps. Just inching closer to that moment where the field comes together. So Strigger is just refusing to yield an inch, and this is the racing that I love. This is the racing that I absolutely love and really get excited to see. This is the kind of fighting that we want on this course. We do have a bit of a GT4 battle reigniting, as well as this is our one and only Camaro on circuit. Croatia Mattis is starting to close down on Ricky Lafleur. Not content with a P7, this is going to be a fight for P6 in the GT4s, and they are going to take every chance they get. Very close to the back of the AMG now. Great exit there, great challenge and closing of the gap. So you have a little bit more speed, peels to the left as Lafleur goes on the defensive. Quickly sweeping past and into the first chicane. Now Croatia quickly darts to the inside. Oh no, but they misjudge it. They misjudge the breaking point. They're having to take to the escape road and having to yield back quite significantly, as well as having GT3s pass them by. Just a bit too much on the break point. I think a little bit of optimism there. Sadly, just too much punch for Judy, as they will be sweeping their way down and losing a couple of seconds of time. Looking great from everyone out there. Final 15 minutes on the clock and things aren't looking too crazy. Did a crush with a bit of a send, but actually has made up really good time really quickly. He's already brought back half of that gap. 2.2 seconds at one point we saw. But now it's back up to it. Back within a second. Back on the challenge. I do love the little details as well. I'm noticing like the red hot exhaust pipes. See, just as we go past, a little bit of red glow. Oh, that is satisfying. Satisfying visual effect if I've ever seen one. Well, Nicola Martignoni is in a bit of a struggle. Let's see exactly what happened to them. So we saw them drop down before. Whoa, whoa. Okay, never mind. I don't think it's so much of a struggle as it is a bit of a this is not me, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. This is the game itself having a bit of a freak out. I don't really know what happened there. It just decided it wasn't going to have it. And so that's what we see. But Serie is actually managing through all of that chaos after we're back on terra firma. Has got past Antal. And has actually already got a second gap on the chicane. Do meanwhile have Vanyeres with a bit of an off-track excursion. This will bring R11 back into the fold as well. So taking over from Vladi Malik, as mentioned, and now within a second of the Audi. 411 could be under pressure and under threat. Back up though, is Croatia once again. Will we see second verse same as the first, or is he going to pull it off this time with the track space that he has? Burascari looking quite daring. Sweeping their way to the inside. It's a Parabolica is their friend here. And very nice on the attack. Seems to be a strong corner for Croatia, and they're using it to great effect, with Lafleur having to yield back. Although Lafleur could have a move on the docket as they run through the start-finish straight. Oh, GT3 making a quick appearance. There's going to be Croatia having to quickly dip back out of the way, as that was, I believe, Eric Heim coming through. That was a bit of a jump scare for me, as well as, I'm assuming, the Camaro and Mercedes. You can see he darted out and then quickly having to jump back in again just to avoid the passing faster traffic. Can't really box them in either. You do have to keep to the racing line, otherwise it would be considered erratic driving. It's a good looking run. A little bit of gravel, but nothing a bit of hard racing can't fix. See, 2 by 2 by 2 all the way down, and say it's a mix of traffic and a mix of laps, so positions aren't really changing. However, the excitement on track as everyone's just trying to find their positions and find some space within the track. You can see the GT3s breathing down the neck of the Camaro, for instance, trying to sort of push him forward, but it's not going to be so easy to get round just where you're boxed in. You don't have much of a space to go. Lafleur is going to take advantage with a little bit of help to get within a second again, or within 1.5 at least for now. Again, Parabolica, such a strong corner for this car. See, flashing the lights, there's a little bit of a flag, a little bit of a nod to the other cars on track right now, sharing the course with them. Thiago Cruz. We'll jump on with them and say last we saw them they were having a little bit of a tussle with one of the GT3s, but they found their own space and they're actually challenging on the back of Angelo Mattei, who has just gone off track at Lesmo 1. This could open the door. That's the ticket, really. Going to be Thiago on the back. and looking for a shot. Quickly sweeping their way through Ascari. Mate is going to be in a spot of bother though, as I think they're going to be swiftly interrupted by GT3 traffic. Wider exit coming from the Mercedes up ahead, but Cruz stays narrow. Both of them in equal machinery. It's just going to be the driving and the setup that is the determining factor. We are getting closer. Cruz is on the heels. No challenge as such being made. Giving it his all regardless. Do have in the distance though, have Zahedna, who is by far and away carrying their race in a near perfect manner, 21.5 seconds away from poor. And that's the crux of it really. It's the fact that they've able, along with their teammate, been able to hold such a dominant position of the race, and for so long too. Rode and Zedner should be proud of themselves. The performance they brought to the table tonight, as many others. Like Yannick Schumacher doing much of the same, with 30 seconds away from Busak. And even lapping mid-grid traffic, I'd argue, like Croatia. Because remember, Croatia is only P6. And Schumacher is doing that well to where he's lapping them. Go to show that both in Enduros, the time stacks up, and so the level that Schumacher is operating on. About half a second faster, but that is certainly adding up. Now we're on board with Angelo Mattei in the Mercedes 416 car as Thiago Cruz is hunting them down. Down the start-finish straight, heading into lap 85. One thing on my mind is who is going to be the first to crack? Who will be the one to yield? I don't know if we'll necessarily see the yield part, but we will be seeing the push. Challenging each other, keeping each other honest. But here we go. There is a bit of GT3 traffic that's going to disrupt this fight. Thiago got the run. He's gone to the inside, coming out of the chicane, and the GT3 is going to close the door. That's contact. That is going to be Mattei out and off the side of the course into the gravel. The two of them running close together there. But unfortunate for Mattei, I think just flew a little bit too close to the sun. Sad moment there, as that will be certainly a moment to forget in this race. But Mattei is now dropping behind Aki Ranyo as well. They will be much further down this order. In an interesting turn of events, Manuel Wagner is 1, swapping in for Mark Offerman, and 2, hot on the heels of Andrei Hipov in the Mustang right now. Just over 5 minutes to go. The big thing on my mind is who will be going for those last moves in the last 5 minutes. Everyone's spaced out, but nobody is out of the running. Just observing Wagner's moves, and Wagner actually throwing the nose in a little bit onto the chicane, even with GT4 impedance. That is going to compromise their exit. That is going to give Huphoff a bit of a getaway card. But he's not out of the woods yet. There's officially only 5 minutes left. And ticking, folks. So it's last chances. We head on to lap 96 with our race leader. And we're going up to likely lap 99. Just one shy of 100, sadly. We were so close to 100. There, Wagner on the challenge. Continues pressure but losing time. Coming out of the Lesmo 1 and 2 at a disadvantage. But into Ascari, they could get a little bit of time here. We do see that the Mustang isn't always the best with these corners. Coming out about equal. Wagner's continuing to lose a bit of time, in fact. About 1.2 seconds up from 0.9. See the sweeping round. A good parabolica could mean all the difference. Many overtakes and challenges are made or broken by the parabolica. Huphoff actually getting quite close and actually drawing in Dennis Adler once again from that initial mistake earlier. Maybe a little bit of a chance to reel him in, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough yet. We'll have to wait and see. Brock, Brenham, Wagner, all within 2 seconds. R11 and Mate. See, Mate could be getting a move done on the Alpine. We'll check in with him shortly. So a little bit of a attacking pocket. Here comes Mate on the back of the Alpine though, into Variante Alto. Hopping a bit of the curb on the exit. See the GT3 McLaren hogging the apex of the corner. Throwing it on the inside, getting very close to the back of the Alpine. But no such luck here for the Mercedes just yet. Lesmo 2 now, there's going to be a BMW quickly disrupting their attacking move, dropping a whole half second in lieu of the ideal line. Just remember, this race is not over until race control calls. So even if the timer hits 0, not until the leader of the race has finished their final lap, that we do actually see the session come to a close. Ranyo and Mate closing back together. Mate getting a bit of time back following their brief interruption from GT3. Good parabolica by the both, a little bit better in the case of the Alpine. But remember, it's the exit speed. That is the bit that matters, and that's what's going to win you race positions. Up to the line. Past the line into lap 88. Yeah, the leader is on the final lap now. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here, folks. So we are on the final lap of the race. Do have Brock with a little bit of a contact there, it seems. But as we come through Curva Grande, do have to sort of take attention to another car on the field right now, coming out of Lesmo 2. This is Wagner and Huphoff now closing in on each other once again. Oh, wild card in form of the Audi. There's contact made, and just like that, Wagner is going to be up ahead. Huphoff is dropping position thanks to the Audi in the contact. So they will be seeing themselves drop a position Wagner's going to take it in the last moment, but there is one driver who stands tall. And one driver in the GT3 at least who is about to close out our race. We'll touch upon GT4 as well in due course. But I think they might actually finish closer together than we think. They are not long behind, in fact. See, here's the 404 car. And Zentner just coming out of Parabolica. Sebastian Zentner, along with Lucas Rode in the 104 Aston Martin. Coming up to the line 3 hours later. What a race. And that is win for Zentner there. The two of them, congratulations. Done an immaculate job. And then in the GT4 class, you have a winner, which is going to be Yannick Schumacher, taking a great run with a solo outing, no less. Immensely impressed, as we have in second Kajpour is coming across the line, and then Yanis Reinders just coming through Parabolica to finish off your GT3 podium. Coming up to the line now, and a great finish. Meanwhile, in the GT4 podium, Lucas Busak, along with their teammate Marvin Moritz, is going to be in the 402 McLaren, and then Marcus Beblik in the third position in the Mercedes. Great running, great racing, everyone out there. But now it's time to bring things to a close as the final racers are making their way through. Could be a last chance here for some. Oystein Brenham still fighting to the bitter end and chasing down the Aston of Pascal Giraud. Is there going to be enough? I don't quite think so, but they still come up to the line in P8 and P9 respectively. Great racing from the two. GG's all round as the last few cars are now making their way to the line. Aki, for example, now sweeping through. Mate actually managing to get past in the end, but the session is set to come to a close. As we wrap up with our final drivers, I want to thank everyone personally for the experience, for the privilege to be able to commentate for you this evening. It has been a brilliant experience, and it has been certainly extremely enjoyable all round. But that's where we're going to leave it here tonight, folks. So do join us next time, because next time we have got the Nordschleife. It's going to be a very exciting event, and we'd love to have you there for it. So don't be a stranger. Of course, do follow the channel. Also consider subscribing. Alternatively, you can support us on Patreon. It's where most of our members go, and check out the Discord if you haven't already, after checking out our website, getting involved with maybe some of the events. But that's going to be all from us now. Goodbye, folks. It's been absolutely brilliant. We're going to jump straight to the end here. Thank you very much for watching. See you later.